Holtmeyer batted and intercepted. And it's Wolcott bringing it back. Could he? Wire to wire, Sikkim Bears. How about it?
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First down and 15. Time to throw it. Johnston up top. And intercepted by Ringo. Kylie Ringo.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Jerome Ford, big seam. Jerome Ford is revving and tearing it up. Touchdown, Cincinnati, 79 yards.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Stroud watching for the end zone. Jump ball. Touchdown, Smith and Jigba. Are you kidding me?
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
And this time it goes to number 17, Malik Turner. Turner had the first down, then backs up. Now he's got a lot more than that. And Turner still on his feet, inside the 30. Malik Turner, what a run. Video game stuff.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
And I'm here as well, David Smoak, and we have our full throttle behind the scenes, Jack McKenzie, Jacob Wilson, Garrett Ross, Levi Caraway, and also Emery Winter. You know, yesterday we had Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes, and he made a couple of notes to us, and we'll go back and listen to one of them as possibly something that he thought might be occurring. It all kind of depends, different ideas, but Pete Thamel earlier today from ESPN, the story about the ESPN and Fox will open talks with the Big 12 about conference's next TV deal. Now, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. Open talks does not mean it started today. Open talks means that at some point they will open talks. There's also various ways of opinions from different people about what does this actually mean. We will hear from the two television executives, that former TV executives, and also media consultants, Bob Thompson and Pat Crakes today. At 3:20, Pat Crakes. At 4 o'clock, Bob Thompson. I have seen a lot of different, I guess, is this a big deal? This is significant. Whether or not it's any kind of salvo or whatever you want to call it, it is significant. First of all, that means that ESPN and Fox both had to agree to open up whatever you want to call this window, whether it's discussions or negotiations. And there's a difference. It also appears as it may mean, we don't know, that if ESPN's willing to do that, does that mean that they're also admitting that they're not going to go all in with the Pac-12? We don't know. We're going to discuss that with Bob and Pat today as well. We have seen that whether or not that Pac-12 had leverage on the fact they could negotiate a TV deal earlier than the Big 12. Does this mean that they don't have that advantage? We don't know, but there does seem as if there could be something to that as well. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Well, I mean, look, it takes away a little bit of advantage if you can say, especially if you like what you hear and you can get a deal done maybe quickly. The Pac-12 still has to contend with something the Big 12 currently does not, and that is the fact that they've got teams on their list that in their conference that would be higher up on the Big Ten's list than the Big 12 do. So when it comes to negotiating, I wouldn't worry if I'm the Pac-10 about maybe your overall number, because I bet you probably know what that's going to be now. What I would worry about is the fact that are teams like Oregon, Washington, and Stanford really all in on the negotiations, or are they kind of just, have one foot in both camps?
Okay, well, back to the number that they think they know, or whatever number, hard number they might have. Now, one of the thoughts, Craig, is the Pac-12 would have a hard number, the Big 12 would have some sort of speculation, and now it seems like, which could be somewhat soon, that both will now have hard numbers, and teams on either side will know what those are, whether there's any difference of 5 or 10 million or more or none. But that seems to be something that was not something the Big 12 would have, hard numbers, but now there's a chance that they'll have those quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that talk about how this will allow the Big 12 to say, go to Arizona and, hey, this is what we can tell you we would get. We've consulted with Fox and ESPN, and we've talked to them about what would a Big 12 look like with, let's say Arizona and Oregon and Washington, or whatever other combination you want to throw out there. What would that look like? What would that, draw number-wise from a TV network? I figure they're going to have a much better idea on that, clearer idea on what that would look like. I think Brett Yormark's being aggressive. I also think the Big 12's, obviously making a chess move today. I mean, how often do we see conferences basically put out there that they're entering TV rights? I mean, we saw it with the Big 10. We saw it confirmed with the Pac-12, but just thrust out there in that way. So I think there is some method to
gamesmanship.
Yeah, there's some method to putting that out there, that they're going to be out there earlier. I think that's a message to the newer schools that are potentially being looked at as candidates. I think that's just kind of a message in general. So I found that interesting. But yeah, if you can tell Arizona, like, hey, you'd be better over here, that's one thing. If you could tell Arizona, and I'm just using them as an example of, this is what you would actually get, and look, this is compared to the numbers that you would get if you stayed in this situation. Hey, what no-brainer, what's better? And it would be more enticing. That's where I see the benefit for the Big 12 potentially. And yes, it does cut off the Pac-12's advantage per se, off at the knees a little bit. There's still that late window. But of course, I've been saying for like 2-3 months now, I know it's not an exact science, but in theory, if you had BYU and you picked a couple of schools that are out in those time zones to, neighbor with them, that late window is a lot more doable for the Big 12 conference. So that's something that I think is perhaps in their pocket as well. So we'll see on what the feedback they get.
Here is Brett Yormark, and this is the Big 12 conference press release from earlier statement. It's an exciting time for college athletics given the changing landscape. We welcome the opportunity to engage with our partners to determine if an early extension is in the best interest of all parties. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. The Big 12 has enjoyed a fantastic relationship with its multimedia rights holders, and I look forward to having these conversations. Now, that right there is Brett Yormark, and also, what does this mean? That's why we have two guys that we've leaned on. Bob Thompson many times, and Pat Crakes was great when we had him on 2 or 3 weeks ago, to let them help us with what this all means. We can have an opinion. I can have an opinion. Paul Craig can have an opinion. Those in the chat room and text line have an opinion. Columnists, writers, whoever can have an opinion. Here's another thing it does do for the Big 12. No matter what you think it does or not, there is no question that the Big 12, by having this early discussions, whatever you want to use the word there, they now can kind of get that hard number, or at least at what it might be a little bit early. And now, is it true that they could then be playing with house money? They may not like the number at all, and then they got to go, whoa, 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 and that could happen. But aren't they then playing with house money? Because then they can say, no, we can't do that, and then let's see what happens over the next 12, 18, or 24 months, and look for something new when other things might become available.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are lots of different things that they could do, and Bob Thompson's thrown out some things. I can't wait to ask him about it, about getting everybody to their desired conference earlier. If you have those negotiating windows, I still don't really buy that that's gonna happen, but and that was just a thought exercise. But yeah, there's a lot of different things you could do. But like Craig said, putting it out there early that the Big 12 is doing this means that they are positioning themselves to be aggressive and not. I was kind of always felt with, you'd ask Bob Bowlesby the question about the next media rights deal. He's like, oh, that's coming up in 3 years or 4 years. You're like, well, yeah, but can you maybe get started on it early? Because 4 years from now, it feels like things should be a lot different. And starting it early, that's the first sign of this conference is going to be aggressive. The Pac-12 starting it early was also an aggressive move, but it was in response to, well, shoot, we better get on the stick here because things have changed in a hurry.
K. Hustle getting ahead of the curve by Yormark. There were a couple of comments that I saw in the chat room. Come on, guys, this means that they are putting a fork inside the Big 12 or the Pac-12. I've seen that. I get where you're coming from if that's how you feel. And that's why I want to also hear from two guys who have done this before, who have been a part of these negotiations.
I mean, I agree with whoever said that to some extent, but I don't think the Pac-12's dying. Like maybe the version of it that we know, but there's going to be something left after. Outside of a full-on merger, there are going to be schools left over. They're not just going to not be the Western Conference schools anymore. They're going to be in some amalgamation of teams, and what level and importance and all that we don't know, but I think the Pac is still going to live. It's just not going to be the Pac-12 as we've come to know it with USC and Oregon and Washington and UCLA and all these schools. Yeah, that's dying. But yeah, outside of a full-on merger, which I know some have suggested, I think Bob Thompson's one of them, that makes the most sense, but is also probably the most unlikely scenario just because, I don't know that those 20-plus teams all vibe together all that well. I mean, that's the best case scenario, but that's also probably unlikely. But I don't think the Pac's just going to just disappear entirely. And by the way, I mean, there may be something to that, but that's also been a phrase that could have been thrown around for the last 2 months and has been thrown around for the last 2 months. How many times have we heard the Pac-12's dead? How many times have we heard the Big 12's dead?
Yeah.
I've seen it plenty. I've heard it plenty for the last year, and here we are. And they might be eating another conference like a predator. So, say what you will, but until things are finalized, things aren't finalized. So the Pac's still breathing. It might be a little more shallow. It might be a little bit more nervous. But in some form or fashion, for better or worse, it's going to be around until it's not anymore. And I'm interested to see how that goes.
And the assumption that the Big Ten, which have kind of confirmed that they're going to expand eventually, but is only interested in the rest of the Pac-12 teams, I think sells short of what they've been doing, since Rutgers and Maryland, where they're trying to extend into every corner of the country. So there could be some teams in the Southeast.
It's almost like they're monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're trying to do is they're trying to get around the whole board. Well, maybe they want to get in the Pacific Northwest, and that would make a whole lot of sense. But it could also be that, this was their first thing, and let's see what happens in the Southeast with who may become available. And that's a long time down the road. But
today,
here's the thing, too, though. What does the Big 12 sign?
Yeah.
We're all talking about the Pac-12 and, what lengthy deal they could potentially sign. I mean, what happened? Okay, let's say, and I know we're like getting off into fantasy land here, but that's the whole point of the conversation and the fun of it, really. But if the Big 12 does, in fact, poach the Pac-12 and, this early entry into TV negotiations helps propel that, okay, what combination of schools are coming? Because are Oregon and Washington involved, or are they not? Because that tells us the Big Ten part, right? Right. So, I mean, that move has to be made to some extent, or Stanford if you want to include them, or Cal if you want to include them, although a lot of the scuttlebutt doesn't seem, but something has to give there. They either have to sign a long-term deal or some type of a deal with the Pac, which will be telling, or they're going to be a part of a contingent that perhaps joins the Big 12. And in that case, what do they sign? Because, again, the Big Ten contract's going to be up here again before you know it. They did not sign a 20-year deal.
Yeah.
They very strategically placed it to where they're going to get a second deal before their biggest competitor, in theory.
7 years into it, right?
I think that's the number, that's a short amount of time when you look up and you think about it. That's not that far away. So, yeah, there's going to be some interesting moves that had to be made that are going to be, I think, telling in some ways. So, yeah, let's see what happens here and how strong these schools or these conferences can be on their own. But eventually, if there's some wobble and there's some room, that's going to tell us something about the Big Ten as well.
Do you have the Dennis Dodd tweet? Here's the Dennis Dodd tweet from earlier today, and I want to react to this one as well. Dennis, of course, was CBS Sports. As a consequence of Big 12 starting negotiations early with rights holders, sources tell CBS Sports there are now active discussions regarding Texas and Oklahoma leaving early for the SEC. In other words, we're going to take care of you, but we want to also be taken care of. And the bottom line with this is the ongoing, I think this has been ongoing since the day that Texas and Oklahoma made the decision, even with the Bowlesby throwing out the flare to ESPN and the cease and desist and all that. I have been told that it's always been some kind of simmering. But could there be a deal where one network says, hey, we want these guys a year early to be a part of the SEC, and we will then take care of you with a longer and more lucrative deal? But the problem is Texas and Oklahoma still have to pay the piper. And would Fox want SEC, ESPN, to get 2 blue bloods a year or 2 early?
I was going to say there's only one person that can do that. That's ESPN.
Yeah, it only benefits ESPN, but does it – Fox has got the Big Ten now. So, like, if it's a year or 2 early, is that really something – like, they're going to have to prepare for that eventuality anyway.
ESPN is the main – rights holder of the ESPN is the main rights holder for the main majority rights holder of ESPN, of
rights
Big 12.
holder.
Yeah.
No, of the SEC.
I'm talking about the Big 12.
Yeah.
ESPN, but Fox is a part of that as well. But with the SEC, they're the main rights holder, so they would love to see something like that happen. I still don't think that that's going to be tied into a new deal.
Would it hurt Fox for 2 years that they couldn't, suckle off the money teeth that is a Texas OU game that they wouldn't have or something like that? Yeah, but you're talking about a few games that you already have replaced in 2023 or 2024. So I don't know. I don't think it may be that big of a deal. That's why it's a negotiation where each party loses and gains something.
It's fun to pit this as like the networks on a chessboard playing each other, and I do think there is some of that to some extent, but I also think that like they're just all trying to do the best business they can, and if that's best for Fox is let's go ahead and let the SEC and ESPN grab those 2 schools a year early, but we get some benefit from it, then I think you weigh the pros and cons like anybody else or any business does. And so if it makes sense, sure, let's do it. If it doesn't, they won't. But yeah, ESPN's the only one. They're the only one that has the SEC now. So it would have to be them. And given their relationship with the Big 12, maybe there'd be something to that. I'm with you. I'm not like all in on they're going to make a deal and it's going to allow Texas and Oklahoma to leave early and the Big 12 gets like $10 million extra a year. I don't buy all of that. But I do think there's a scenario. And Brett Yormark made that clear from day one. From the start of his press conference, basically, he let it be known that he's willing to negotiate an earlier exit with both schools, although he hadn't begun talks with them yet. He would at some point, and he would be open to it. He didn't promise anything, but he made it clear, that could happen if there's something that benefits us greatly from that. So what that would be, I don't know.
Situation.
Yeah.
Win-win situation. Also, let's not forget Bob Thompson, who will join us today at 4, former Fox president, has even told us that too many people early on are trying to pit the networks against each other. Yeah. And in fact, Zachary, they're owned by the same company, Disney, ESPN, and also Fox. So a lot to get to. We can have our opinion. You can have yours. That's why we're here every day, and we appreciate it. But then we can also lean in on the knowledge and the insight of those who have been a part of these things before. And that's why I wanted to set us up today. We wanted you to hear today from Pat Crakes and Bob Thompson. Do we have the Mack Rhodes audio? All right, Emery, great job with this, and Garrett. Yesterday, Baylor Director of Athletics, Mack Rhodes, was on with us. How long is this?
18 seconds.
Okay, he was on with us yesterday, and just kind of listen to this one comment. Craig brought this up when he walked in today in the studio.
The Big 12, we're going to remain aggressive. There'll be, some things that certainly indicate that. I think here in the future.
That's Mack Rhodes from yesterday. A little bit of a tease. And by the way, a lot of you are saying, David, Disney owns Fox Media, not Fox Sports. They're separated because they had to divest. Thanks for clarifying that as well.
Yeah.
They almost own everything else, it seemed like. And now, when we come back, Pat Crakes, former Fox executive, he'll join us. You got something else you want to add to it? Because we got to hit him before he has a window to get on.
I was going to give some more clarity to what Mac said, but that's fine.
No, go ahead, real quick.
I think he does as best he can drop little nuggets where he can, and it was hard to be able to tell what he meant. We all looked at each other like, he's saying something, but we just can't tell what he's saying. And we tried to actually drill down further with later questions to see if we couldn't squeeze a little bit more on what exactly he might have been referring to, and he did a good job of kind of keeping it general, and then less than 24 hours later, what are we talking about? So it's very clear now in some way what he was referring to, but it's curious to know what else. But that's why also this was intentional, Big 12 leaking out that they were going to be entering negotiations early. So found that interesting.
Our conversation with media consultant, former Fox Sports executive, Pat Crakes, next. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Pat Crakes, he's a Crakes media consultant, also former Fox Sports executive, joins us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Pat, thanks for your time. So what did today mean? What does it actually mean, in your opinion, about the Big 12 and ESPN and Fox having some sort of, whatever the word is, negotiations was not used, but discussions? What does it mean?
Well, it's great to be back, by the way.
Thank you.
I guess, it feels, first of all, I think things are settling down on the larger strategic picture. The Big Ten doesn't look to be expanding. I had someone suggest to me that this weekend Notre Dame and Ohio State are going to play each other. So Kevin Warren and the Notre Dame group will get together at Ohio Stadium, and Notre Dame will come out of that joining the Big Ten, to which I replied, you mean Notre Dame's never been to a big game before? They're going to be so impressed that they're going to suddenly jump into the Big Ten. Guys, I'm going to be at that game, by the way. And I'm just like, no, stop. So, in the settling down of this, it looks like now the Pac-12 and the Big 12 had an opportunity to kind of assess the strategic picture. And what they've discovered is something I think is very obvious. In general, overall, elite, good level college football's value has never been higher. And that's because pay TV distributors view it as a top reason for people to have a pay TV bundle. So they do have something organically, even if they don't have 4 of the flagship programs that once belonged to both conferences. So the Pac-12 has a normal procedural conversation going on with its partners, and the Big 12 has decided to start, unofficial conversations with the partner, which, by the way, is very normal to do. I think maybe our 4th contract at Fox was an extension, basically, for the NFL when I was there. With all the partners can talk anytime. They can ignore parts of the deal sometimes, right? They decide just doesn't work for them, and they both agree, like, we're not going to obey that here. We're going to do something else. They don't even change the language. And so it's smart for the Big 12, in my opinion. Brett is a very, very impressive person. He has some kind of plan. He wants to explain it to ESPN and Fox. I think it's smart for him to walk in the door and say, look, I've got some thoughts about how we might be able to create value together. It doesn't have to wait for the contract negotiations that they're supposed to happen in a couple of years. We can do it now. And here's how we see it fitting in. What do you guys think? So I think things have settled down. The Big 12 and the Pac-12 are trying to figure out what their futures are into a landscape that is kind of emerging, right? At first there for a while, you really couldn't tell what the landscape was. There were so many rumors and so much chaos. It's settled down some now. And barring something from the Big Ten that's spectacular, it seems to me that into that kind of peace or that settling in, the Pac-12 and the Big 12 can find a way to realize their value and advance their opportunities in the future by securing good distribution with their existing partners.
Pat, is this bad news for anyone in particular? Because there's a leap that people are making that the Big 12 is trying to step in front of the line of the Pac-12 and hasten their demise.
Yeah, the whole Pac-12 versus Big 12 thing is interesting to talk about, but the practical reality is that both have value because elite level college football has never, like I said, has never been more valuable. Are they competing against each other? I don't think they really are. I think that they are now, as they're currently constructed, important pieces that can round out any big media company's college football distribution plan. And that includes NBC and CBS, who now have entered or have kind of revalidated their commitments to college football. So they now those conferences can't talk to those networks yet, but one of them will be able to, and certainly in the Pac-12 at some point if they wanted to. But I don't see them as competitive. I see them as complementary to the current distribution formats that both Fox and ESPN have, and even CBS and NBC, or new participants and streamers. So I think for both conferences, participating with a streamer would be complicated because it's going to reduce their reach. And those conferences do need reach. They need to be validated on established platforms, in my opinion, because they need to get to as many people as possible. And going to streaming is more complicated. It reduces reach. And so I feel like their future is with established media networks as part of a complementary part in their current configurations to the kind of portfolio of sports that the other networks have. I don't know that anyone loses. This kind of fight between the conferences seems to be a lot more something that happens on Twitter than happens in the conference offices or even with the media networks. And to that point, these media networks, in particular Fox and ESPN, are used to working together. And both these conferences are still their current partners, right? And they have every incentive, if there's value to create, to work together with the conferences to figure that out. So I think it's the right time for the Big 12 to kind of initiate as many conversations as it can. It's the right time, certainly, for the Pac-12 to figure out what the future of their deal is going to look like. I think as they're currently configured, they have value. I don't know who's the loser here. I just don't see any losers. The question is, how are you positioning yourself for the future, whether it's future expansion or realignment and the college football playoff, and who your partners are going to be as you walk towards that.
Patrick, I've seen renewed calls, and you're right about Twitter and just social media in general. It can be its own world, right? It's like Funhouse Mirror sometimes, but the merger of the Pac and Big 12, why not? Just at this point, they might as well. Why does it make sense? Why does it not make sense? Why would that happen or not happen?
To me, I think that if you're trying to optimize, the merger of the Big 12 and the Pac-12 makes a lot of sense. I understand somebody tweeted to my friend Bob Thompson, who I think is going to be on later, saying about cultural fit between some schools in the Big 12 and the Pac-12 and so on. And I just cultural fit. I mean, give me a break, okay? I mean, that is something that only comes from a passionate fan who legitimately cares about their conference school. They legitimately care about it. But it's just we're way beyond cultural fit. That's not going to happen here. What this is about is economics and fit within media network portfolios. So for me, I guess I see a merger, right? When you start drawing it up on the board, you say, okay, well, what does the perfect solution look like, right? The perfect solution for the best football schools would be to find a way to get some of the best football schools out of the ACC and create a completely new conference. That's probably not going to happen. So what's the next one? The next one is, look, there's a lot of scale and a lot of great football schools combined in the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Sure, there's problems. There's cultural fit. There's maybe the schools aren't necessarily compatible with each other on a research basis or something like that, something academic, which, by the way, can't be ignored. But the truth of the matter is, placing together that many college football programs, you really have some value. You're not going to be able to be ignored by an expanded college football playoff. You put together enough quality games and matchup and inventory heft that you can have multiple partners that don't include the existing college football duopoly, which remains Fox and ESPN, because the expansion of the Big Ten windows on NBC and CBS did nothing to damage that duopoly. Matter of fact, it preserved it in many ways, allowing consolidation with Big Ten for Fox and SEC for ESPN. So to me, I just see a lot of good things about a merger. I understand that's easier said than done. Nobody understands that better than me. But maybe a step towards that is just figuring out new deals for both conferences with the existing networks. And you kind of walk yourself to a merger or expansion of some type that makes sense in the context of that, because you secured really good distribution. And with that, you can begin to have maybe some more calmer talks about what something might look like. And the advantage would be that your current media partners would remain your media partners in that. And perhaps both deals for Big 12 and Pac-12 with Fox and ESPN could have language that recognize that and set up some procedures for how that could get valued.
Pat, when the last time we had Bob on the show, I had asked him about, it was when the Big Ten happened and NBC was involved, and that was a big surprise. Do you think that because NBC will not have, say, a doubleheader every week because they only have half of Notre Dame's schedule because of the home games and neutral sites, do you think that the Big 12 or NBC could be in the water for the Big 12 so they can at least half those weeks where they don't have a doubleheader maintain the doubleheader and keep that rolling through?
Well, I think, right, assuming either the Pac-12 or the Big 12 can get out of their exclusive negotiating windows, either today or eventually in the Big 12's case, that there's enough value with both conferences, but the Big 12 in particular, that an NBC might look at something like that. I think that both conferences as currently configured round out all the media networks distribution plans. And that is useful. Again, this all comes down to pay TV distributors and what they're prepared to pay. They're prepared to pay the most for the NFL. After the NFL, they're pretty much prepared to pay the most for college football. And so even though Texas and Oklahoma won't be in the Big 12 one way or another in 2 years, that doesn't mean that the Big 12 hasn't drafted off an overall increase in value for elite level college football that won't prove to be very profitable for them, even as they're currently configured. The question is, who are they partnering with, and how does that fit into keeping the Big Ten and the SEC, as I keep saying, in your front windshield as you look forward towards the college football playoff expansion?
Is this discussion or this announcement today that they will at least start whatever this is with the Big 12, is that in any way a sign that ESPN is not going to go all in with the Pac-12?
I don't think it's a sign of anything. I think that that press release was designed to send a message. Okay, ESPN and what ESPN thinks and what Fox thinks aren't going to be impacted by that press release. That doesn't mean that they don't think the Big 12 doesn't have value, and that doesn't mean that they're not welcoming a conversation with Brett, who's, again, a very sharp person. I don't think it means anything to them otherwise than, okay, let's hear what you want to say. We are happy to discuss anything with you. And like I say, organic changes to contracts within term, doing things outside the contract together within term, doing things that sometimes are in conflict with the language of the terms of the contract happen with partners when they have a contract together. You don't always have to change it. And extending or redoing the contract also happens. So it's smart to go. I'm sure that press release, though, has been accompanied with a detailed plan by Brett to get things going. So I just don't believe that they would release a press release like that without a plan to present both networks. And so I would imagine that plan is detailed and thorough, knowing Brett, and it'll be interesting to see what the response is.
Pat, do you think there's any part of the Big 12's plan where OU and Texas' early exit is used as a chess piece, or is that just fantasy land once again?
No, it's totally possible. Like somebody's like, well, there's an exit fee. Okay, well, you're the Big 12, and and you want to get paid, and you want a long-term deal with certain types of media partners. Maybe somehow we figure out that exit fee because Oklahoma and Texas want to leave early. But in exchange for that, the conference is reconfigured somehow or is given a long-term media deal. So there's just ways to figure all of that out. I always talk to some of my investor clients, like adding a year to the term of a deal can change the economics of it because you can push more of the value creation assumptions further out. And sometimes that's how we made deals work at Fox. We just added a year of term because it fixed the economic problems on the front end. Gave you more time to bet on yourself, more times for things to evolve. So there's lots of ways to find $85 million. I'm sure Bob has a lot to say about that and provide some context on that. But there just has to be a value creation exercise that makes sense.
What are one of those ways? I'd like $85 million.
Yeah, we want that recipe.
Just morph yourself into the University of Texas, and suddenly it'll probably show up somehow. Somebody will be prepared to help you figure that out.
Pat, I know you've got to go, but is there a chance that doing this, whatever they can, also gives the Big 12 hard numbers that otherwise were speculative compared to what the Pac-12 might have earlier than them, as far as hard numbers to anybody that might at least be listening?
Yeah, I think. Look, by going on offense, I think that the big thing for me is I don't like playing defense. Sometimes defense can buy you time. It can get your opponent, or you can get the situation to come at you, and you can read and react to it. But in this case, it's really time to go on offense. I for years, a couple of years ago, I was just baffled why the Pac-12 and the Big 12 couldn't sort something out. Right, this is right before Texas and Oklahoma moved. Now, obviously, it's easier said than done. Each school's individual. The conferences are obviously connected to the schools, but these schools also have their own living, breathing agendas and things like that. It's easier said than done, but to me, I just really believe that when you think about trying to figure out what the future of your distribution is going to be, that it's good to have put some flag down. And that you've gone on offense and you've been aggressive and you've made it clear to your existing partners that you're ready to deal today and that you have a plan that helps them build value. And that sets the stage for a couple of years. Now, they can't go talk to anyone, right, until that contract and that exclusive negotiation window is done. But you certainly can talk to your own partners and make it clear that you have a plan. And that doesn't stop you from doing your own things internally, right? And I would have been shocked if Brett Yarnick had rolled over or just sat there and said, we're just going to stand still. He's not the kind of guy. And he hasn't done that. So I think there is advantage to being on offense, and they've recaptured some initiatives, at least in the context of what matters to them. Again, I don't like this Pac-12 versus Big 12 stuff. I think that there's something to it, right? Because media networks only have so much to spend on everything, and they're trying how much they can get from pay TV distributors and advertisers. But in this case, you got to get your stuff right, and then the value gets realized somewhere. And if it's by your current partners, for ESPN, Fox, for the Big 12, great. If in 2 years it's an NBC or a CBS or someone else, so be it. But let's be on offense. Let's not be on defense.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate your time. I hope to have you on as the future goes into whatever we find out from the various particular networks and also conferences. Great stuff. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Pat,
anytime, guys.
Pat Crakes again. Crakes Media, former Fox sports executive. Bob Thompson will give us his view, his eyeballs, and his knowledge and insight as well in about 20 minutes. Look forward to that as well.
Yeah, they're both good Twitter follows in this era of paying such close attention to college football media and networks and all that comes with that. I know it's not an entirely new topic, but it does seem just sports-wide like it's become its own little animal in a way. The sports business side all the way delving into specific TV negotiations and numbers and things like that. So it's been fascinating to see the amount of weight that's carried this offseason for so many people like ourselves and so many listeners and friends and whatnot throughout the industry. It's a fascinating area to kind of listen in on. And I think the biggest takeaway is not anything pro Pac-12 or pro Big 12 or anti either one of them. It's for everybody screaming and hollering about the death of college football. Yeah, we might be watching the death of it as we knew it in terms of an amateur sport with no payment of players and things like that. But as an industry, college football is an absolute bleeping juggernaut, and it's only overshadowed by the NFL, really. And, probably to some extent, I think the NBA would be the closest that you could find. Obviously the NFL is the number one in America, but I mean, college football is right there. So yeah, I think that bodes well for a lot of the people involved. To what extent? Obviously we're all speculating and trying to figure that out ourselves. But there is a reason behind it. It's not just everybody playing fantasy booker day in and day out. It's the fact that we cover the Big 12. It's important to know where Baylor's going to be playing in 5 years and who they're going to be playing and whether or not they've got a shot at the playoff through that route. And same goes for Oak State and everybody else involved. Are they going to be in the Big 10 in a few years? Or are they going to still be in a version of the Big 12? Are they, if you're a Washington State fan, this is do or die time, it feels like, right? So you're hanging on every day as whether or not you're going to still have a conference to call home that's on a relevant level. So it's got a lot of people involved, and it's certainly interesting to hear someone kind of slice through all of the noise, because there is a lot of that. But I think he made some really great comments, and it's a fascinating topic, like I said.
On the chat room, Carl Adams goes, I hate to disagree with your guest. If the Big 12 guts the Pac-12, that's one less conference competition for relevance and media revenue. He mentioned he gets it. He understands that he doesn't so much like the fact that it's one conference against another and it seems like it's a turf war. I want to say this as well. The Big 12's been through this. This isn't new to anybody who has covered the Big 12 since 2010, Nebraska and Colorado. We have seen teams linger. We have seen them twist in the wind, almost like the days of old when my mom back in the day would put things on a clothesline and the wind would blow and the clothes would kind of, we've seen this. We don't want to see anybody die. I don't want to see anybody die as far as college football programs, because Baylor or Iowa State or Kansas State or TCU's been left out before. I don't want to see that, but it does seem like it's somewhat inevitable in some ways. I don't know the end game. We try to bring you different opinions and insight and knowledge, and we hope you appreciate what we bring.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I really have big questions about, and maybe Bob can help out with this, but, Pat is looking at it from the TV executive point of view and all of that. Where does this leave Oregon, Washington once again? If they were so coveted, where are they in that whole being coveted by the Big Ten thing? Is this intentionally like them being delayed entry for some reason or another? Is this just, there's not going to be any chapters until 5-6 years later, and then that's when we'll see, them make the potential move? But, there's a whole lot of weight being thrown around about like the desire of the Big Ten to add these teams, and yet we haven't seen it. So are we going to see that? And if not, again, where does that leave them? Does that leave the Pac-12 just as is? Does everybody just walk away from this after all this talk basically in the same position that everybody was in to begin with outside of USC and UCLA? So basically just Oklahoma, Texas Part 2, and really the only difference being there wasn't 20 levels of fallout in the conferences below, where it went all the way down, to the bottom level of, I don't mean bottom level as an insult, but to the tiniest teams were affected by the OU and Texas move ultimately, right? And we haven't quite seen that with this Pac-10 LA exodus. So maybe that's the only difference in the long run. But, there sure has been a lot of scuttlebutt about what the Big Ten was going to do and who they were going to take. And, they're like Pat said, it seems like everything's kind of at a stalemate at the moment. So I find that interesting, especially in regards to Oregon and Wazoo and Stanford and, those schools.
TC in the chat room, I want to read what you said. I don't want to see anyone die is what my quote was. Bruh, Big 12 died with Texas and Oklahoma, my guy. We've heard that for 12 years with Nebraska and then Colorado, then A&M and then Missouri. And yes, Texas and Oklahoma were always around. We heard that last summer, that they wouldn't even make it, and maybe we're going to be gobbled up by the American Conference. I'm talking about all conferences. I'm a traditionalist. I understand change, but I'm talking about all conferences. And every time somebody feels like the Big 12 is dead, they seem to only just find a way to survive.
Yeah, if people only could just have to have follow-up on when they proclaim something to be over or dead, I think there'd be a lot less of those predictions because people would actually have to be accountable for them because a lot of people throw them out on like almost a daily basis. But, yeah, the Big 12 died when Nebraska and Colorado left and when A&M left and when who am I missing there? Nebraska, Colorado, A&M. Who am I missing here?
Nebraska, Colorado,
Missouri. They were dead then too. They'll be dead when Texas and OU leave. I mean, what is dead? Not ceasing to play football because that's not happening. Ceasing to be on TV, that's not happening. Ceasing to make money off football, that's not happening. Ceasing to win games, that's not happening. Ceasing to win conference championships, that's not happening. So what, are they just going to be left out of the thing they're already left out of outside of Oklahoma anyways? The college football playoff? Well, if that expands, then that's not happening either. So I fail to see where they're going to die. Now, if you're talking about the money gap, that's great, but us as fans, we're not really the ones pocketing that money. So I don't know why that's a big bragging right for some people or a thing to hold over the heads of fans of other conferences as though you're pocketing the check from ESPN or whoever directly. I don't root for that, and I don't think that's going to happen with the Big 12. I'm also well aware of their positioning in comparison to the Big 10 and the SEC, but they still got a position, and that's better than no position at all.
Paul Foster, the best of all. One thing that has died since conference realignment is Nebraska's football team and competitiveness. I couldn't agree with you more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. The Bauer family that owns the business. They also own Waco Custom Meats, Waco Meats, which is a distribution for many, many, many restaurants throughout, not just Waco, but I remember one time I was on the phone with Brian, and he was up in Dallas with a delivery truck for product to a restaurant in Dallas. Right now, there's specials as we are about to hit the start of college football season, the first full week, so to speak. Baylor at home against Albany and other teams around the state at home as well, and around the country. Select and choice brisket, $375 or $385 a pound. Prime brisket, $520 a pound. St. Louis ribs, $325 a pound. Spare ribs, pork spare ribs for $2.75 a pound. Tailgate food, they have specials right now. Baby back pork ribs, $2.99 a pound. Whole chickens at $1.60 a pound. German sausage, $3.25 a pound. And 15% all charcoal and wood pellet fuel. That's on sale as well. That's through Saturday, right there at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know the average American pays over $500 a month for their car payment? What would you do if you didn't have to make that payment for 90 days? Where else could you use $1,500? Keep your car payments at Genco. Buy new or refinance your current vehicle and have no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of our low rates and no payments for 90 days. Only at Genco. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies insured by NCUA.
My money, my future, my credit union, Genco.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, one story I'd like to make sure we share. You may or may not have seen this. This came from Brett McMurphy, the Action Network. Utah is going to honor Aaron Lowe and Ty Jordan with custom hand-painted helmets. The players both wore number 22, passed away in the past couple of years. Utah's number 22 Forever helmet will debut October 15th when they host USC. The pictures of the young men, Lowe and Jordan, on the helmets.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's a really cool looking
leave it up, Garrett,
helmet.
please.
Yeah, it's really, really cool looking helmet. And I'd almost want to wear those all year long if I were Utah. Those are so cool looking.
that looks to me in ways whenever you see the service academies come up with a new look, and they're awesome. I don't know if other schools that have had, obviously not that, but Maryland one time had a helmet that seemed like a lot on it. It was images like that. I'm not trying to compare that, but that's really, really cool that Utah will honor those two young men.
Yeah, this is entirely different from other random uniform helmet tweaks. I mean, this is a tribute, and I know those are tributes in roundabout ways as well, especially the service academies. But I mean, these are guys that unfortunately passed away far too young, so very unique in that way, and totally shouldn't even be happening because of that as well. You know, like the fact that they're even having to have not one but two helmets that are designs. That's just tragic, and to know that those guys passed away so unfortunately, that they were teammates. I believe go back to high school, right? Texas guys. I mean, Ty Jordan, he was well on his way to just a monster career. I mean, he was off to a fantastic start, and I think he was going to be a major part of what Utah was doing moving forward. So I had already seen him start to kind of emerge on the watch list for the Earl Campbell Award, and I was like, hey, man, we're going to have a Utah guy for like the next 4 years. This Ty Jordan kid's going to be. And, unfortunately that wasn't the case. But, that's really cool on Utah's part. Well done. I'm curious if the hand-painted part is like every individual helmet, because that just seems like it would be the most tedious thing in the world. But maybe they were able to kind of do it, hand paint one design and then have just a sticker or whatever for the rest of them. But either way, a lot of attention and detail went into that tribute and that idea, and that's very cool on the part of the Utes. So
good for Utah for doing that. By the way, thank you, all of you who are on right now. The like button in the bottom left-hand corner of our YouTube channel, 365 Sports, which we debuted all of this on April 6th of 2020, and we appreciate you being a part of the growth. One other quick note, Baylor released the single digits. It was a big deal. Matt Rule started this, right? And then I wondered sometimes if they would continue this.
Well, I asked at the very beginning of practice, and I guess nobody read my article on Sick'em 365 because I asked practice number 1, and I had a couple people that thing's stupid, or who cares, and it was dumb anyways, and why are we asking about this? And the whole point, the timing of it for those who may have said that, and there's little minor comments, but it's like, when do you want me to ask about it? Before the game, in the post game, when is better than the start of practices? So yeah, Aranda said they would continue it, but he was going to do it in a different way. It wasn't going to be as pronounced in public, and they've done it. And I think they landed kind of in the same spot that the old way of doing it would as well.
We're not going to put all the numbers up, but 0 is Squirrel Williams, the running back, Craig Williams. Hope to see that number on the field quite a bit. 2, Matt Jones, the linebacker. Mark Milton, the corner. 3, Christian Morgan. I think he's been 4. He remains 4.
The next 3 are.
Dylan Doyle has been 5. Gavin Holmes has been 6. Battled through a lot of injuries. Good luck to him. Bryson Jackson moves to 7. Ben Sims has been, what was his number? Was he in the 30s?
He was in the 80s.
8. Ben Sims now 8. And then T.J. Franklin, a local high school prospect from Temple, is now number 9.
Do you think that means that Jackson player can get his coveted number 90?
Maybe he does. And I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
One is maybe because you don't want to say, you're number 1, or is that going to be left for Joy?
I think that could be left for a player still. Yeah. I think that's still entirely possible.
The player that passed away.
Yeah, I need to reserve my comments on that. I think we've kind of gone overboard on that. But
well, I mean, that's to each his own on that. I do know they're going to have an honor moment on Saturday. This is Sick'em 365 Radio. Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports executive and president, is next. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and perhaps used to be. As you get older, Father Time does things to your body. Sometimes you do it to yourself. But one thing that can change because of Father Time is your testosterone levels can drop. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and maybe you're that one. Maybe you're fortunate and it has not affected you at all. Sleep habits, energy, you're lethargic. It also can affect your sex drive, and that's what you see most of the time now watching TV with all of these businesses selling ways to correct your issues with ED or whatever else. And it could be just flat out your testosterone level is too low. Dr. Kent Petty, pettycliniclowt.com. Contact them. They will set you up and take care of your blood work appointment. And then if your testosterone level is too low, they can put you in a program to get you back to being the man you want to be, used to be, and need to be.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. During the Labor Day sales event, you can take your pick, a new 2022 Dodge Charger or Dodge Challenger, and receive 0% for 72 months and no payments for 90 days. If you're a first responder, you get an extra $500 off your purchase. High-quality vehicles from a dealership with a hometown feel. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Jet motion they go with here with Baldwin. And Baldwin breaks free. And the Bears, Sikkim, Monterey Baldwin.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go, this 4 o'clock hour. And Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports president, joins us on 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and David Smoak. And Bob, thank you for being on today. When you saw Pete Thamel's report, or you saw what was in the report, was there a couple of things in particular that perhaps jumped out to you on what it actually means?
Yeah, the first thing that kind of jumped out to me was normally people don't send out press releases that they're starting early negotiations. So that led me to believe that was a message for somebody. The other thing was that it didn't specifically say exclusive negotiations, which is an entirely different thing than just starting early negotiations. So those were the two things that kind of struck me right off the bat.
Bob, you kind of threw out a scenario there where this could get kind of everybody happy. USC and UCLA out, Texas and Oklahoma out, the Pac-12 and Big 12 with new TV deals. How likely do you think that would be to happen?
I don't know. I worked for a couple of big deal makers in my life, and their counsel to me was always think big. You can always pare it back at the end. But, if people want to get creative, you can solve and tie up a lot of loose ends with a few deals here. And it's pretty simple. The Pac-12 and the Big 12 renew some sort of deals that are acceptable with Fox and ESPN. They continue to share the packages as they have in the past. OU and Texas get out of the Big 12 early. SC and UCLA get out of the Pac-12 early. That benefits both Fox in terms of the Big Ten and ESPN in terms of the SEC. There's some details to clean up. CBS, do they trade out there last year? What's the compensation potentially to the Pac-12 and the Big 12 for those schools leaving early? But those are details. This stuff can be done if people get creative and, concede sort of the vision at the end as opposed to the morass that they're dealing with right now.
Bob, does this tell us anything at all about what the Big Ten might still eventually be planning for?
I don't think so. It could smoke them out, I guess. And if there's a belief that somehow both of these conferences are about to make a deal, or certainly are in discussions, it could cause them to, maybe move now as opposed to later.
Yeah, I just ask because, and I know a lot of it's just rumors and speculation, and you see all that over Twitter, but it does seem like the kind of constant question mark throughout this was those West Coast schools and the late window and Oregon, Washington, and all of that. And I was just trying to figure out if this really told us anything about the Ducks or the Cardinal or the Huskies and where they kind of sit in the scheme of things.
I think the only thing that'll tell that is when the Pac-12 gets the deal, how long is it for and how solid is the grant of right?
Right.
I really think so. The other thing is I don't know if the SEC or the Big Ten necessarily want to be that guy that says, I put a bullet in the Pac-12.
Right.
There's a lot of history there, and so and I don't know exactly how the deal reads with the Big 12 or the Big 10 as it relates to adding schools, and if there's good faith negotiations to, increase the deal based on new members coming in. I understand there's a number for Notre Dame, but I can't imagine there's a number for anybody else. So, I don't know. 5 years 6 years isn't that far away. So if the Big 10 wants to wait, it's not an eternity.
Right.
Bob, does this mean in any way is this a sign from ESPN that they're not going to go deep into the Pac-12 when it comes to any kind of not that they won't, but they wouldn't go all in, so to speak, with the Pac-12 with the TV deal?
I don't think they will go all in with the Pac-12 with no Big 12.
Yeah, no. Okay. Also,
no, I don't think that. They lost a bunch of windows with the Big 10. They still need content, and they need. On top of that, they need basketball content, and you can't lose the Big 12 and the Big 10 from ESPN standpoint, from a football and a basketball standpoint, and be able to fill all the mouths that they've got to feed over there in Bristol.
Is there any advantage the Big 12 might have moving forward if they actually get a hard number because of whatever these discussions produce, rather than just speculative?
Possibly. I think really now probably what you're going to have is, two trains going down parallel paths here. And, I don't know if they continue to go at that rate. I don't know that any one conference has an advantage over the other in terms of, finalizing a deal. I think they're going to move at their natural speed. These things usually take longer than than everybody thinks. I mean, just look at the Big Ten, and whether they're in an exclusive window or not. I made some comments that I looked at the Pac-12 press release and it mentioned nothing about an exclusive deal, but I'm told that in fact it was confirmed by the conference that they did trigger the exclusive window. So my guess is they're now out of that. So they're talking to whoever they want to talk to. The Big 12 I would assume that the reason they're talking is that the TV guys came and said, let's talk now, because the TV guys are trying to get this all sorted out so that they can figure out, what their cost levels are going forward and what the deals are looking like going forward. Because right now there's a lot of unknowns. You know what the Big Ten is, but there's still a lot of unknowns out there as it relates to the Pac-12 and the Big 12, and the networks want to get that straightened out.
Do you think that there will be any kind of mirroring in these TV deals, not necessarily network-wise, but length of contract-wise, grant of rights-wise, things like that? Because like we talked about the last time you were on the show, Bob, the Big Ten can get their deal done twice before the SEC does once, and probably 5 or 6 times before the ACC ever comes to market again.
Yeah, I think, with these deals expiring in a couple years, 24, 25, that they're probably going to go to, maybe 31. You let the Big Ten go first, but you go, and so they can kind of set a market, but then you go before the SEC, which I think is in 32 or maybe 34. I don't know, but before the SEC, and certainly well before the ACC in 36. But you got to remember that the length, even those guys are long, that means nothing. I mean, if the conferences or the network wants to open the deals up, I guarantee the conference will be more than willing to listen early.
Bob, do you think that some of the changes that are occurring across college football, I mean, how much of that is paid attention to by TV execs in terms of how much do you think some of the changes could add value to the sport or decrease value in the sport, or does that not matter at all?
No, I think it matters. I think especially as you look forward to, an expanded college football playoff, which, who's going to be funding that, and that's the network.
Right.
And I think it's important for a college football playoff to incorporate, schools from coast to coast, not just, Big Ten and SEC. So in order for the college football playoffs to really, reach its full potential on an expanded basis at either 12 or 16 teams, you've got to have a number of broadcast networks interested in it, and those networks have to feel that there's going to be appeal for that tournament or that playoff scenario from the ACC out to the Pac-12. You can't have just something down the middle of the country in the Southeast.
Is there too much overreaction anytime a conference releases a statement like the Big 12 or Brett Yormark did today, and there's, oh, my God, or was this significant in your mind?
It's only significant in my mind because I can't ever recall anybody doing it. I think when the Pac-12 announced theirs, there was a message. And I think when the Big 12 announced theirs, I think it was a similar message. And I guess that message could be to existing members, don't look around because we're doing something here. And to potential members, don't do anything that might lock you up too long because we're doing something over here. So I think it was kind of a message sent both ways to existing members and also potential members.
I asked you this question when you put the scenario together about this would be the perfect scenario, or at least you mentioned it. And one of the thoughts about Texas and Oklahoma, if in fact they decide or they could leave early, what would ESPN get out of that? What would the Big 12 get out of it? Because they obviously are still going to want a big chunk of money that Texas and Oklahoma would be paying to leave the conference.
Well, I think the ESPN gains by getting the Texas and OU to the SEC early. Mm-hmm. The conference, and I know that ESPN doesn't expect that they're going to get that for free. And I think the combination between what ESPN can do for the Big 12 in terms of a new rights deal, what Texas and OU could kick in, to the conference to get out early and get to the SEC early. And the other thing is what ESPN gains by getting Texas out and being able to shut down Longhorn Network early and saving some money there. So there's a variety of things that the Big 12 could actually glean by having Texas and OU leave early. And some of them aren't as apparent as others, but in a deal like this, it's not a rounding error, but it's not a rounding error, but it's not a ton of money in the big scheme of things.
When Yormark released what he released, what you surprised it was now, or was it something that you were waiting on in the first place? You said rarely do these things go out, but was this something that could have been released a month ago when he first started? Could this have been 3 months from now? Was there a meaning that you said there's a meaning because it's now?
No, I think that, there's a meaning because it's now. And if this was, in fact, as I've been told, that it was instigated by the TV partners, not the conference. The TV guys went to the conference, and probably because of the situation that they're in discussions with the Pac-12, they want to get the Big 10 or the Big 12 on the table as well. Plus, they've finished the Big 10 deal, so it's like, okay, what's next? And so to get these two deals that are kind of hanging out there completed as quickly as possible, so that everybody has certainty going forward, makes a lot of sense. So I don't know that there's any significance to the fact that it was today as opposed to a week ago, other than a week ago people were still talking about the Big 10 deal. Now the networks have all kind of taken a breath after that and said, okay, what's next? And it's the Big 12 and Pac-12.
Well, Bob, you referenced this a little bit earlier, but I thought I'd just pass along this news from Ross Dellinger, who said that college football playoff presidents will meet Friday and determine the next evolution of the playoff with a potential vote to expand in 2026, and if unanimous, as early as 2024. So that would certainly potentially play into the grand scheme of things, it seems like.
Without a doubt. I saw that right before you guys called. And, the one thing you got to keep in mind is in order for them to do it early, there's got to be some opening of the ESPN agreement. And so that's, it's a very similar situation to what we're talking about with the Big 12 and the Pac-12. There's probably some exclusive window in that deal, and ESPN has some preferential rights as it relates to that. But they can vote for it, and sure, it could be unanimous, but they're still going to have to deal with the existing television agreement in place with ESPN in order to expand.
From a television network's perspective, though, would they have wanted that to? I mean, last year this came up, and then Kevin Warren successfully kind of duped two conferences into joining him in this. We've got issues to work out on the playoff deal until he got what he wanted. The issues weren't really macro issues; they were mostly his. But wouldn't a network want that to be early because that means that they're going to make more money?
Well, I think the question becomes, does it make sense for the CFP to want it early if they only have the ability to deal with one network?
Okay.
The whole idea, I think, with the expanded CFP is to get more than one broadcast partner into the mix and, give everybody a taste, just like the NFL playoffs. I mean, now with ABC having a game, everybody's in the NFL playoffs. For years, ABC was kind of on the outside looking in. And now last year they had a game. And I think it's the same, they're looking at this with an NFL mentality. And I think after seeing how the Big 10 deal broke out and the fact that it is basically an NFL model, I think certainly going forward with the CFP playoffs, it would behoove those guys to kind of look at the NFL and try and replicate a playoff scenario as it relates to the broadcasting side of it and have multiple partners with it, in the deal.
I asked you about ESPN with the Texas OU and all of that scenario. Fox has some of them too, Texas and Oklahoma. Would they want something in return if Texas and Oklahoma left early?
Yes, but likewise, ESPN has something with USC and UCLA that they would probably like something in return. So there's a lot of trade fodder out here. There's a lot of swapping that can going on. I wrote, Fox traded Joe Buck to ESPN for some earlier picks in the Big 12, or in the Big 10, and NBC traded or ABC traded Al Michaels to NBC to the rights for something that's called Oswald Rabbit, whatever that is. So these guys could, those are little, but this isn't that, when there's so many moving pieces, it almost makes the deal easier to finalize because you've got a lot of trade fodder.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob, that was Walt Disney's first cartoon was Oswald the Rabbit. So Disney's done nothing with it other than just have it.
Made for some good press, though.
I guess my last question is: it now when we see these conferences release this, or we see that this conference is negotiating whatever else, people want to put a win and a loss next to a conference or next to a network. Is that silly?
I think it is. I think you have to look at these types of things, and they are very well thought out before there's a release like that. There's probably a number of people sitting in rooms, commissioners, consultants, PR people, and a great deal of thought is given to how it's released, when it's released, and how long the release is. I can imagine they spent quite a bit of time deciding when to release it and just exactly the wording. And it's because it's designed to send a message of some sorts to some group.
Bob, thanks for your time. We appreciate it as always. The knowledge, the experience of you negotiating dozens or hundreds of these things in the past. We appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure, guys. Take care. Have a good week.
You too. Bob Thompson. He's got his own company when it comes to what he does as a consultant and, of course, a former Fox Sports president. I know that I've heard from myself many people when this all came down, and there was this kills the Pac-12. And there was this, it doesn't mean much. And whatever the guy said, my guy, the Big 12's dead. There was that 5 minutes ago, to your point. And then Phil Perry, you put it very well. Bob speaks like someone who's negotiated this stuff in real life. Sounds like he's done not in Twitterverse, like other people that we've had on as well. Look, all this stuff, like everything we've heard today is really good news for everyone. It's really good, especially the playoff thing. If the playoff expands, and I know that there are people out there, and we should be wary. It's just like being like, nothing's going to happen with Russia. They're just saying stuff. You can't really think that. I know that's an extreme example, but if you look at it, the Big Ten and SEC and expanded playoff, even at their peak, would need all these other teams to beat up on so they can advance and play each other eventually. So so they need that. Look, it's going to do them well, especially to expand to enforce their brand, as opposed to eliminating all the competition from outside the SEC and Big Ten, to be able to play it and be like, ha, we beat you. There we go. Beat you again, beat you again, beat you again. So that means they're the actual best. But if they take that out, then they won't have that card to play, because then they look like they're afraid to play everybody. So now if you get an expanded playoff, this really solves an issue that we had for a long time. And it goes back to the theory that Kevin Warren was never against the expanded playoff. He convinced Jim Phillips and George Kliavkoff that they needed to band together because things were getting hairy. He just wanted to make the Big Ten path the way he wanted it to. He did that, and look now. They're voting on it again, potentially. Yep. Yeah, they are. I mean, but that will remain to be seen on Friday or whenever they do talk. Well, they keep saying about voting on it. I have a feeling we're going to get a proposal again. I mean, how many times have we had these meetings, and then they get out of these meetings, and then we hear from ex-commissioner of, well, there's, this pit stop that we couldn't get past, or this hurdle that we couldn't get over, and there's, deadlock, or there's always meetings that don't really result in the playoff changing, is my point. And so I almost wish they wouldn't have released anything, because last time they did, it screwed everything up. Exactly. Like the last set of meetings didn't take us anywhere. So, seeing that on the horizon is definitely of interest, and definitely raises the eyebrow a little bit given the current environment. But it also does not guarantee anything by any means. But yes, an expanded playoff would seemingly solve a bunch of issues for a lot of institutions out there, a lot of programs, and a lot of people out there. And yeah, I've said, and I don't know
the last time maybe I got around to mentioning this, but I definitely have said on more than one occasion that it's going to be funny if, all this back and forth between you suck, no, you suck, you're going to die, no, you're going to die. And then when all the dust settles, everybody's just exactly where they were. And then the only difference is 2 schools went to the SEC and 2 schools went to the Big Ten. And outside of that, everybody who is screaming why Wazoo's the greatest versus Oak State and why, Kansas is better than Cal. I mean, those will continue on the court and on the gridiron. But in terms of, boardrooms and all that, everybody's going to pretty much stay in networks. Everybody's going to pretty much stay where they were in terms of affiliation. So if it works out that way, I don't know that a lot of people will take that as a win because it has very much become like one can only survive. But that would be ideal for everybody involved, would be for everybody to pretty much end up where things are right now and hopefully get a little more money along the way.
A couple of things, a couple of bullet points from today's announcement and Brett Yormark's statement. One, and Bob confirmed this, that means that both Fox and ESPN both had to agree to open up whatever this is, the discussions. And I keep saying that because of the exclusive window and all that stuff as well. There's a lot of that you can read into that, but they're going to talk. And that means both networks wanted to do that, as he said. It does appear as if that means that ESPN, whatever they do with the Pac-12, they also need the Big 12. And you may not agree with that. You may say they don't. Yes, they do, because of what did Bob say? Content, programming, content. And really, that's kind of what the Big 12's message was even last year when they lost Texas, Oklahoma, and added people, added Brigham Young, Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF, is because of filling content. Also, there was a little leverage that the Pac-12 had. You could say a little, big, whatever, when it comes to them negotiating a couple of years earlier because of the Big 12's contract had 2 years left or 3 years left on it. And now this gives the Big 12 a chance to sit down, look at the raw numbers or whatever the numbers are and go, hey, this is pretty good. Let's figure this out. Or we don't like this, and they still have 2 years to go back and wait for whatever's next that whatever's next that creates more money, revenue, or not when it comes to TV. Who else is going to get involved in a couple of years that maybe is not involved right now? House money was a term that someone gave me earlier.
Well, I think everybody, I don't know, that's just general everybody, but there was a lot of getting caught up in the ratings, and I tried to warn against this yesterday. Like, the ratings do matter, but if we're going to start getting into, like, every weekend we're checking the ratings, like, that's just insanity, and that's not fun, and that's going to take away a lot of the joy. But I understand why for, like, an Excel sheet, they're good to show you why, like, Oregon and Washington matter more than Oklahoma State and all of that. But, ultimately, okay, Big Ten brings in more viewers. That doesn't mean that no networks want 800,000 fans watching Oklahoma State Baylor on a Saturday in October, or 1.2 million watching, Kansas State versus Texas Tech in September. I mean, there's still value there. That's the part that's always kind of been hard to wrap my head around is, yes, some have more than others. Yes, some have 2 times as much as others. But the idea of just ceasing to exist and we want less football was just always crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, you mean, so you'd rather throw on a Laverne and Shirley rerun in the middle of the day on some network than, I don't know, Iowa State versus Oklahoma State? Like, yeah. I think I know what'll bring in more, and no, it's not 4.2 million like northwestern Nebraska, but damn it, there's, close to 1 million people, if not more, that want to watch that. That made no sense to me.
If we look at some of the charts that both Tony and Sam have given us, really what the key metric is the broadcast networks are going to dominate. And if you really look at, when they put on ABC, Baylor, like the RG3 game, Baylor and Oklahoma, that got great ratings. Yep. So it's not necessarily about the conference, it's about the game. Mm-hmm. The 2 conferences who have done these great TV deals have done a much better job of convincing everybody that they're better than everyone else. And only one of them really has an argument that they're right. Because when you look at, who's winning national championships and playoff games, it's just one of them really that's consistently doing it.
I agree with you.
Top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but that's like the metric for us talk show guys, whereas for the networks, it's so much bigger, and it's the fan bases, and it's the city, and it's the history and all that. Well, but you're right.
But also, like, sometimes I do think that you pick the easiest thing, which is those metrics of the fan bases and the cities and all that stuff, when really, if you took, the 30,000-foot view of it, you'd be like, well, if it's just the best game, it really doesn't matter what league it's from as long as the teams are good. As long as the teams are good and it's at that point in the year. So if it's late October, early November, and you've got two teams that are, 8-1 playing each other, every college football fan is going to try to find a way to watch that game regardless of the league. So and I also think that there's not that many people who are dyed in the wool. Like they're painting to be like, oh, well, I only watch the Big Ten. No, you don't.
Yeah. I don't know how many people are watching from morning till midnight anymore either. I think it's, you're going to watch the best game. It doesn't matter. Like the SEC kind of created the tribalism conference thing, and it's worked out really well for them. But because of these negotiations, it has kind of spread throughout college football, it almost feels like now, because now Big Ten fans are thumping their chest about Kevin Warren and all that, or Big 12, Pac-12 fans going at each other. But, yeah, you're right. I don't care where USC and Ohio State are playing, but if they're playing and they're number 4 versus number 7, I'm watching that, and I'm especially watching it if there's more playoff interest as well, which is why that's, again, such a big part of things. But, yeah, just give me a game that's got some meaning behind it, and I think you'll get people to tune in.
Well, and the other thing is, and I believe this, when you expand the playoff and expand the teams that could be in it, then – as opposed to having 5 games at the end of the year that mean something for the playoff, you have 25 games for a month that have playoff implications.
Like the NFL has.
Yeah.
All the way through the weekend. By the way, Congo Super Chat, we'll get to that in just a second. Craig, you were going to add something else to it?
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about a couple things. Kevin Warren's got the kind of bringing the NFL model, so to speak, to college football. I think we've all seen for years now where college football has cut itself off at the knees more often than not, just in the grand scheme of things, yielding certain days to the NFL, certain time periods of the NFL that they otherwise should have staked their claim in. And hopefully they get a little bit more aggressive in that regard, because it's clear there's demand for college football, no matter how many people might be opposed to various changes or rules or whatever. It's only, seemingly as popular as ever, quite frankly, and networks obviously see it very much in demand. So, yeah, I think there's some territory there for the taking. I think if they play the playoff card right, everybody can come out as winners, and everybody can be happy and make a little bit more money. But obviously there's a lot of other, things that have to take place, and the playoff expanding is certainly no certainty, as we've addressed it many, many times to no avail. So we'll see what happens. But, I think in general, Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, everybody's probably today as content as they could be versus, how the last couple months have gone for many.
That doesn't mean someone didn't go, or wait, whoa. By the way, we'll come back with news on the transfer portal.
We have 2 Super Chats we need to get to as well.
We'll let's do that. In the next break, the Super Chats, and also the latest and confirmation on the transfer portal windows and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Holy cow, has it been a hot summer. You could fry an egg in the bed of a pickup truck. Jay here from Pickup Outfitters here to give you a little heat relief and some protection for your poor truck bed. August is bed cover month at Pickup Outfitters, and we're making it easy for you to cover up that hot bed on your truck with discounts of up to $200 plus matching rebates of up to $200 and double your warranty on many of those covers. That's up to $400 in discounts and rebates plus double your warranty on bed covers at Pickup Outfitters. And you get our famous lifetime installation guarantee and free warranty assistance, which makes for a worry-free purchase. When's the last time you could say that about your bed, a truck bed? Get your poor bed some heat relief with a brand new bed cover, including name brands like Backflip, Undercover, X-Tang, Retrax, Roll and Lock, and Truxedo. Up to $400 in discounts and rebates with double your warranty. It's only at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer Jeweler joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
We will hear from Brian Driscoll. He covers Notre Dame in a little bit. And at 5:15, by the way, Joey McGuire will join us, Texas Tech head football coach, as he's about to be on the sideline for the first time when Texas Tech opens up with Murray State on Saturday. A couple of super chats to get to. And by the way, thank you. Just over 1,000 of you at one point today. Thank you and like it. If you can, hit the like button. We appreciate you.
All right, super chats from Dennis M. I've heard West Virginia and Oklahoma State talking to the SEC. Golden Blue Dude reported a short while ago.
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, I don't believe
that. Not
Yeah.
The Golden Blue Dude. I'm not trying to, put a wet blanket on him. He has maybe his sources. I don't see that in any way.
Yeah, I respect whoever that is and their sources and all that, but I'm not buying that whatsoever. I don't buy much into that. I don't think it makes really a whole lot of sense, quite frankly. When we're talking about values and things like that, Oklahoma State and West Virginia are going to bring more value to the SEC after making the OU and Texas moves. That alone stops me from really going further down the sidewalk with it. And there are other reasons too that just don't really make a whole lot of sense. So no, I'm not buying that. I do wonder how attractive those brands are because, West Virginia fans, not to, paint with too broad a brush, but there are certainly some that, feel like they belong elsewhere or, certainly crave the days when they had a bit better of a fit geographically. And that's getting lessened, a little bit lessened of a blow lessened thanks to, some of the new Big 12 members. But I do think there's a segment of West Virginia fans who would like a much better fit for them. And the only part of that is just it's like what Kansas fans sound like sometimes when talking about the Big Ten or Oklahoma State to the SEC. I think that's wishful thinking more than anything because I feel like there'd be a little bit more to that we would hear, but maybe not. Maybe those are all moves being made in secret that are just taking a really long time, especially Kansas at this point.
With the news today and so much of us, things that items, opinions, and whatever we want to get from you, we're going to move the Notre Dame segment to either tomorrow or Friday to stick on this topic, although we will have Joey McGuire today who will join us at 5:15, an interview from earlier. Now, There's another super chat, 2 more, and then we'll go to Max Olson on the transfer portal.
Yeah, just one more. Super chat number 2 from Congo. Thank you, Congo, for the super chat. Do you envision the Big 12 following in the footsteps of the Big 10 and partnering with CBS, NBC? I would say no on CBS. CBS's model is pretty much they're kind of a game of the week thing. CBS, and I don't mean this as a knock, CBS's programming strategy is the most vanilla basic thing in the world. Like they want, because the viewers of CBS probably tick a little older, so they're not pushing the envelope with a lot of stuff. You look at their programming, there's like 7 NCISs. Yeah. There's, there were 11 CSIs. Their sitcoms are very much traditional, classic, basic sitcoms that are not, pushing that envelope. So again, having one network like the Big Ten and promoting that's more in line with what CBS does as a network. Big Brother's on 3 days a week, Survivor's on Thursdays. Like they want their people to know when things are on. So throwing another thing in the machine doesn't really, jive with what they do. Now NBC is interesting to me because they're going to have double headers with the Big Ten primetime game and Notre Dame half the weeks of the season. Now the weeks that they don't have Notre Dame, which are when Notre Dame is on the road, do they want to have another doubleheader so that is consistent? The Pac-12 makes that a little more difficult because that game would likely be earlier. So it may be more Big 12 windows for that to put that in. So maybe NBC could get in on that a little bit, and it would be a small package. You're talking 6-7 games a year, but even still, it's something.
I'm not a genius when it comes to all the windows and everything, but could they not just use Big Ten schools to fill that spot?
Well, they only have the one Big Ten game. Like that's part of their they have
I see what you're saying.
So they only have that one Big Ten game a day because they're trying to do Fox at 11, CBS at 3:30, and them at night. So that's what they're trying to do across the way.
Right.
So they can't. They only have the one Big Ten window, which is the primetime window, as opposed to the streaming stuff, which is on Peacock. So that's what it would make me think that there could be a window for the Big 12.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Also, I would just say, as far as the networks go, is we love to plug in their lineups for them. But I don't think everybody is looking to be an all-day destination for college football. Yeah. I think there's something to be said for NBC having their Notre Dame or their Big Ten and then following it up. I think it was in the press release or somebody was quoted at one point of, imagine being able to have the lead into SNL of, Big Ten at night football and the big presentation that will be. I don't think they're trying to be morning to midnight, like ESPN is on Saturdays. That's a nice complimentary piece to other programs they offer, much like when golf is interjected randomly or a basketball game or whatever, but they're not trying to be ESPN per se. I think that's something to keep in mind. Now, who ultimately, that's what will be kind of interesting as well, is how deep do some other networks dive in? Obviously NBC and Peacock they're diving in, and we've speculated on others that may or may not, but yeah, just because you're partnering to some level of college football doesn't mean you're going to be willing to throw it all over every station all day long. So it does present some, logistical challenges and some limitations.
Here is a tweet from Max Olson. This was from less than an hour ago. The NCAA has officially approved the transfer windows, the FBS transfer windows for 2023, 22-23, December 5th through January 18th, May 1st through May 15th. The fall sports 45-day window beginning the day after the championship selections are made in their sport, or May 1 through 15. Winter sports, a 60-day window beginning the day after championship selections are made in the sport. Spring sports, there's December 1 through 15, or a 45-day window beginning the day after selections are made in a sport. So there's the windows. They're trying to tighten it up. I don't know if they will or not. I guess they're trying to I don't know.
I doubt they're going to be able to curve some of the things that people have the biggest complaints about, which is just sort of the lawlessness of how the money is being thrown around, even if there are businesses set up and things like that. I think we all know there's a little bit of shadiness. It's always just going to be present, and depending on which corner you look in, maybe shadier than others. But yeah, that's not going to be entirely stemmed. I mean, we see Lincoln Riley basically in a public campaign right now trying to reel in USC's NIL order, and he's having a little bit of difficulty with that. So, I don't think you're going to be able to contain it exactly like everybody would love to in a nice, neat little clean box. But you can, wrangle it in a little bit. And I don't think there's anything wrong every business out there has rules of some sort. Nothing out there is just like, you can do whatever you want, no matter what. I mean, there's some structure. And so I think it's totally fine, given the number of things that the college football world has finally started to give back to players, long overdue, mind you, and all for it and should have been done a long time ago. But I don't think there's anything wrong with him also saying, okay, but there are going to be some things in place that keep this thing on the road. And this is one of those that I think just, cleans it up a little bit. And I'm fine with that because it's not like the opportunities aren't there any longer. It's just that the windows aren't open 24/7, 365.
Yeah, and one of the things that a lot of state laws, including Texas, tried to do was like, look, you can have NIL, but you can't have it until you get to college. Well, then other states were like, well, what if we did it before they went to college? And then you got Quinn Ewers going to Ohio State for a year just to get some kombucha cash, and good for him that he got it, but that kind of stuff needed to be stemmed, and that was the idea behind that, was that at least you wouldn't get the money until you actually went to college, and it's not going to, because you can negotiate something and be like, hey, this guy owns this big soda pop company. He's a big fan of the university. I'd like you to meet him. And then you kind of just like, hey, when you get here, wink, wink, nod, nod, then you can sign it. But it kept them, there's at least a door that they have to walk through. Right now, there's no door. It's just
there's very loose doors. They're like barely hanging on the hinges, basically. They don't close all the way. That's what the NCAA has had. But now they've got more of a door that they can lock at certain times. And from a player's point of view, I'm sure there might be the random case of where this timeline doesn't fit the scenario that a certain player is playing under, perhaps, that it would be better if the windows were fully open at all times or whatnot. But I don't think that ultimately this will be too much of a drawback or anything that really hurts the sport or hurts the players in any way. They're still able to go where they want when they want. It's just a matter of the when they want part is going to be a little bit more selective. But as long as you enter your name, and I would like to think that most people have an idea, during that time frame, you'd have an idea of whether or not that's something you want to pursue. That shouldn't create too many problems, hopefully.
240 on the text line, 254-339-1122. Robert Allen reported earlier today that the discussions with the networks are going very well, and I think we're close to a deal. I don't know. I do know Robert Allen's money. Whatever he usually reports is pretty it's money. So not sure what it's on his website. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about as far as the TV deal with ESPN and Fox or what else is going on. But if he says it, usually I would say almost every time it's always been money.
Well, it's not going to be a TV deal because we just got the announcement today. I don't think that they're going to have a TV deal done by today or the end of the week.
Unless Yormark's that good.
I mean, damn. If Brett Yormark, threw out a press release with intention and then is signing a TV deal 2 years ahead of time, 24 hours later, then that would really be something. But
He's just been sitting on these planes working at a deal he knows they'll like. Send it to them. They're like, heck, let's do it. I mean, that would be kind of shocking.
From the 515, the Pac-12 will survive. I'm not sure bigger conferences are always better based on college football history. Of the 4 teams that left the Big 12, 3 of them have made the conference championship game since. None have won their conference. A&M is back in Texas's shadow in a way. That's debatable, although I know what the narrative is. Missouri isn't what they were when they were in the Big 12. We know Colorado got fooled, and, Nebraska, you know the story there.
It would be really fascinating if you could somehow create that time ship where you could see a different future or an alternate time, like MCU, go down to a different different universe and see what would a Big 12, if it had stayed together, looked like in 2022. Granted, there would have been a lot of battles and wars and drama, I'm sure, along the way for that to even be able to happen. So it certainly would have to be an alternate universe. But, what would that even look like or entail or be valued at this point in time? That would be fascinating. But, like you said earlier, the Big 12 is no stranger to conference realignments. This is chapter 4 or 5 at the very least, and that's not counting every little round of rumors, years ago, Texas, Oklahoma State, and company to the Pac-12 and the drama that caused. And, there's been so many different instances. But I would be curious to know if everything does stay pat for the time being. Obviously the Pac-12 deal will say a lot about, the commitment level and the terms of that. And and where Oregon and Washington sit. But how do you feel if you're those schools right now? Do you feel like it's still inevitably going to happen? You're going to be in the warm graces of the Big Ten in the near future, so you're confident that everything's going to be okay? Or are you like, oh, damn, we're still in the same place we were, and we don't have the life raft we thought we had?
I would think, like, the best thing for everybody to do right now is vote on that expanded playoff. And I vote on the expanded playoff, get that done. See how the leagues progress in their new forms for a couple of years. Because, you know, you could be the Kevin Warren and say you want 20, 22, however many teams you want, but you could get through 6 years with 16 and be like, you know, this worked kind of well. You know, like this is what we want. The divisions are good. The splits are good. So, yeah, I don't know. Now, I don't think that's, reasonable that he's not going to expand, but like they'll know what they want to expand to. And, 6 years from now, maybe Oregon and Washington aren't what you want. And maybe the ACC has a little bit of a different look on things. And there's a window open for you to go into that because, again, there's a reason Oregon and Washington aren't in right now because they could have easily just left with USC and UCLA, and the Pac-12 could be at 20 or the Big Ten could be at 20 if it wanted to today. But clearly there's more of a plan afoot there than just doing that. And part of it is I think that they want to see how things grow in the other parts of the country that they're not in. Because if you're talking about growing a television network, look, right now, in the state of Florida, the Big Ten Network might have a nice little foothold because most everybody in Florida is from somewhere else. So you might have a nice little foothold there. But
all the Florida people live here now.
Yeah. But
based on the license plates I see.
But, yeah, so you have that. That's a lot of rental cars, too. Yeah. Rental cars, a lot come from Florida. I don't know why. But yeah, so they, there's a lot of that there. And so you've got that, but also how do you grow it? Like, do you grow it by – getting Miami and Florida State in your league eventually, down the line a decade or so from now? Do you grow it by, the 4 schools aren't from places that you already have. You go to 4 places that you're not in. So
that's why my whole thing with the Big 12 all along has been just go out there and win some freaking football games and go win some basketball titles. And that's the best you can do for yourself. Like, that's been my advice since day one for everybody.
You cannot change the population of a city overnight. And in fact, most of the cities that have Big 12 teams are just not going to show too much growth.
Yeah, like Waco in 10 years might have 300,000 people. I mean, it's steadily growing, but, is that still going to carve out a market for the TV net? No. So, they are who they are. They are where they are, and schools are what they are. And, there's only so much transformation you can undergo, like a Clemson, over the last few years where they've become this massive brand where they were already a brand, but, just on a different type of level. Georgia's added to their already pretty stellar brand, but they've taken it to another level. There's only so many ways you can do that, and it's not landing the number 1 recruiting class every year. It's going out and winning the damn national championship. It's going out and winning football games and winning basketball games to a lesser extent. And so, circling back to where we started months and months ago, if you're the Big 12, if you're the Pac-12, if you're these schools that aren't the it schools, all you can really do throughout all the speculation and the Twitter talk and everything is just go win some dadgum contests and win as many as you can and get, as popular as you can and grow as much as you can and just be the best that you can. I think that's what Matt Rhodes has long been about and just maintained is like, that's all we can really do. So go out and do that and you give yourself a better chance. But everybody, again, looks like they're kind of okay right now. So, see how calm the waters really are because things do change fast.
Out of all the cities in the Big 12, other than Austin, and in the incoming teams, UCF is in a city that's been exploding, and slowly but surely they're growing. Cincinnati's in a nice spot, right?
Yeah.
Houston, we know Houston. We could debate about who pulls what, whatever. That still it's Houston. And then Provo, Utah. There are Ames, Manhattan, Lubbock, Waco, whatever. They're only going to be so much. They're only going to be, but Tuscaloosa is 100,000. Birmingham's 210,000, which of course, it just go in. Go in. All right, when we come back, the 5 o'clock hour, we'll include our conversation with Joey McGuire, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on now over at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on for a great deal on your vehicle and for great customer service as well. I've had my car over there with Donnie and company a couple of different times over the last, 6 months or so, maybe a little longer than that at this point. But the point being that when it comes to the customer service and the taglines and the things that they tell you, it's not just talk. It's not just a commercial read. It's facts. I've been there. I've worked with them. I've seen the job that they've done with my car. Even though I didn't buy it from them originally, I get the offers in the mail to come by and bring it back for extra service as well. And sure, they want to continue my business, but it's also just the continuing relationship of that customer service that was established when I first went over there. So I can vouch for the great people over at Richard Carr and tell you that, yeah, you can count on them. But if you're going over to Richard Carr, you're not going to shake hands and kiss babies and all of that necessarily. You're going to get a vehicle, right? And the question is whether it's a new or pre-owned vehicle. With new models, well, jump onto that Richard Carr inbound vehicle list right now. Basically, it's your placeholder. It's you going and standing in line and securing your spot so that whenever that vehicle that you've chosen, that brand new SUV, car, or truck that you've chosen is ready for delivery, they will let you know. You'll have your place in line, and it'll be first come, first serve as soon as that place comes up, and you'll get your car, and you'll drive off, and you'll be happy, and you'll have great peace of mind. But if you're looking to get into something a little bit quicker, you don't have the time, you need something right away, you can't necessarily have the patience to be on that inbound vehicle list, and you're not looking to buy new, well, they've got several pre-owned vehicles available as well, and a lot of different models. All of them go through a 172-point inspection, so you can leave the lot, get top dollar in your trade with dozens of lending options. Richard Carr says yes to loans when others say no, and you can have that peace of mind that is so important when driving a vehicle. For 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people that you can go to and count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Waco's, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com. Call now or go see them now. Highway 6, the Imperial exit.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Thank you very much for everyone who has been a part of this show from the beginning. We have an hour to go. I want to thank, of course, Jacob Wilson and Emery Winter, Levi Caraway, Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie. Paul is also, you may have been watching this, he and Jack have been trying to figure things out because I'm an old man and my hearing is shot on just the way things come through the headsets. I know that we don't need to share a lot of the things we deal with, but you may have seen him on occasion trying to figure some things out. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. Our sponsors are amazing. A couple of notes. Friday's show, Craig Smoak and Grayson Grudhafer will be co-hosting from here in the studio. Paul and I were going to Odessa to do the midway game against Permian. We will be there and have a couple of the segments that we do from Ratliff Stadium, but the show will be from here in the studio. We'll have a high school game that night on Sikkim 365 Radio and also 106.7 FM, The Eagle.
3 hours of pro wrestling and HBO talk coming your way on Friday.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's what we
Maybe
need.
Maybe a little Southern hip-hop.
That 1,000 we hit earlier is going to be about 20,000.
Hey, look, yeah, especially if you guys talk about, House of the Dragon.
Yeah, we'd be one of millions apparently that are interested. Seems like that's doing good numbers, so that's good for HBO. Take a little bad taste from Game of Thrones out of people's mouths from the way that ended a couple years back. But yeah, that seems to be a really strong start for House of the Dragon.
Also, Saturday at 4 o'clock, we'll be here in studio. Baylor opens against Albany at 6. Our pregame at 4 until 5:30. And it will also be on local cable and TV with CW Channel 12. We'll have that simulcasting the following week. Our pregame show before Brigham Young will be a part of the CBS affiliate, the monster stick of KWTX. Thanks to Josh Young, Darby Brown, Chris Williams, and others for what they've done behind the scenes and also in front of the scenes to be a part of it. One of my favorite segments, I'm going to tell you right now, is going to be our former Baylor offensive lineman, Blake Blackmar, who's become a barbecue aficionado, a cooking aficionado, sent me a video, and we will do one of these every single pregame show of him, almost like you see what they do on the Food Network, breaking down what he's going to cook for that specific weekend and how. From even the ingredients, it's fantastic. He did a great job, and Blake Blackmar will be a part of that. Also, Travis Roeder, who joins us on Mondays, will have our segment Keys to the Game that we'll do in the pregame show, along with much more that we'll have starting this Saturday at 4 o'clock. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it should be good. Travis is going to do pre and post with us, right?
I don't know about post, depending on the press conference.
Okay.
No, what we're going to have is he's going to have keys to the game, then you and Brian break down whether or not that Baylor hit him or not.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Right. Yeah, I have to write them down.
It's going to be on a graphic.
I hope so.
I hope so. I do too. You'll be able to join us for that as well. So that's kind of some things that we have coming up with Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. From Patrick, are you still going to have the show during the game for halftime update, end of game coverage? Yes. Brian Etheridge will pop on at halftime with a couple of notes, and then Paul and Brian will be here in the post-game show, and look forward to that. Paul and I are actually flying to Midland out of Dallas and then flying back on Saturday to be back for the pregame. Now,
do you think we can make some money in the oil business while we're there?
No. It's all been made.
No, it hasn't. Well, otherwise
we'd
people
stop
would
drilling.
stop. Yeah,
we'd stop drilling. We've done the transfer portal. We've done the ESPN Fox with the Big 12 and whatever's happening in that story as well. Did you guys see Deion Sanders and Jackson State with their water crisis mode?
Yeah, the whole city.
Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah.
I've said this before. You brought him up about how he has grown into this incredible adult, great football player, Hall of Fame player in college, obviously, also in the NFL. His videos on Instagram, to me, are fantastic. What are you shaking your head for?
You're covering your mouth when you talk.
I am?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. So Dion put out a video that Jackson, the city of Jackson, he's having to displace players. They're trying to get them hotels. They're trying to get them water for showers or anything, hygiene. And it's pretty bad because of the flooding that they've had, the water emergency in Jackson, Mississippi. You have not seen that. It's very interesting. And I really, Paul, you brother, he has turned into a grown-up adult.
Yeah, it's really kind of surprising to me, given kind of what we knew about Dion. But yeah, he's really, and look, there was a school of thought that he was kind of doing this coaching thing just to kind of show that he could, and that he wasn't. But I mean, he's super serious about it, and he's super serious about changing the way that we view HBCUs. As they used to be. Nobody really wanted to play a lot of those schools. You were going to get all you wanted, and now, things have changed, and he's trying to bring back the HBCUs and bring some notoriety to them. And certainly Jackson State had a great year last year. I think they only lost one game. But, yeah, I'm surprised at Dion's kind of change. He was always, faux preachy to me sometimes, where it was like he would say things, I'm like, okay. But, man, it really seems genuine here at Jackson State to me. I mean,
I don't know. I feel like he's the same old Dion. Yeah. Maybe I'm tripping. I feel like he's still very, preachy and kind of pulls that evangelical card as it's necessary or as he sees fit. I still think he very much leans into that faith side of things, which is fine. Some people feel like it's, a little on the faker side to like the evangelical preacher kind of a feel to it, and some people believe it's all completely authentic. I wouldn't know either way. I could see both sides of that, but yeah, I mean that's certainly an element that he's always kind of carried, and I think he's always been obviously an incredibly confident guy. In terms of being a coach, I mean you don't start basically a school to have a football team like he did with Prime Prep if you don't have some passion for it. I mean, he basically was, hands-on in making a school just simply to have a football team where he could select players from other Dallas schools. And it failed miserably in the long run, did not work out for him, and turn into some decades-long project that's thriving. There were a lot of issues with that. But I think, there's always going to be an element of Dion loving some Dion. I mean, he's kind of one of those first guys you think of when you think of like that type of just super confident, believe in himself and believe in the swagger and all of that comes with that. I mean, that's one of the first people I think of is Deion Sanders. And I think that's always been the case with him. I think that's still the case. I think that, he's just gotten older and maybe matured a little bit, but a lot of the preaching or the messaging or just the passion for football, I mean, I think that he's shown over time that's been, some of the constants of him as a personality, as a player, and, as somebody involved in the game of football. So it's been really interesting to see his rise, and, how high that rise will take him, I think, is what everybody's waiting to see, here in the next few years is this a carve-out Jackson State as a destination and HBCUs as, having, this level of power that's coming back their way? Is that something he's going to be the architect of throughout, or is that something he basically laid the foundation for, but he's going to be like most people and take the money and run at the bigger level when the time comes? I mean, that's what's going to be fascinating. And who all's involved and interested in him, because he's not going to be a fit everywhere.
Yeah. I think he's going to go somewhere. I mean, I think he's going to get a bigger job.
How long do you think until that happens? I know the FSU thing is there, but how long does he, if you were to say he's going to be there 3 more years, 5 more years, going to always be there?
I think if he does, again, for another couple of years what he did in the first year, somebody's going to. Plus, with the NIL world, he can say all he wants that Travis Hunter came to Jackson State because of, wanting to be there, and maybe that's true. But also, who would be the best coach to set you up with NIL anywhere? With that guy, the marketing genius.
I mentioned the water issue. Here's something that
we'll be talking about that if Dion wasn't the head coach. No, there's some of Dion's impact right there. Is that he's actually got people focusing on Jackson and a water shortage, because otherwise no one would be talking about it.
I think if a lot of other coaches brought it up, I think it would be heard, but I don't know how many people would actually do anything about it or listen to it or care. And that's unfortunate, because it shouldn't be who's telling you it, but it does matter. Dion, I don't even know what this message is, but it's saying thank you, and I bet it's about the fact that they had the issue what they needed to find displaced players, showers, etc. No audio? Okay, all right. I sent you a bad link. That's my fault. Sorry about that. But he was saying thank you. That's interesting because I've got it. Okay, all right. That screwed that up. Now, chat room. Texas Buckeye. The Big Ten, this is what Texas Buckeye mentioned this a few weeks ago. Remember how much money the Big Ten was going to get and on average what it was going to be? Some of the things that have been said in the chat room before that were like, that's going to happen. Like the Big 12 is going to fail. The Pac-12 is dead or whatever it is. When all 16 schools in the Big Ten were going to get $100 million per year when the new TV deal was announced. Did that happen?
No. Not yet anyway.
But that's not really what. No, that's not what was. That was being. That's what was being said. That's what was being. Whether accurately or not. Obviously, it was not accurate. But that was kind of the general messaging from some. If you and look, not everybody is dug in on every Twitter, explanation about exact details over the Big Ten deal. Like we all have lives to lead. So. Generally, the problem with misinformation on Twitter is that. A lot of it does spread like wildfire, but people only know what they see. And you see something and like, okay, that's what's going on in realignment, and boom, you got to move along with your day. Not everybody can dive in and look at it from every single level. So yeah, on the surface, that's absolutely what the theme was that the Big Ten was going to be just shooting out of the gates with $100 million plus. And then after the fact, there was a lot of, no. The explanation was actually that at some point in time, they will make $100 million. And at some point in time, no, we weren't talking about TV deals. We were talking about this part of the package. But no, in general, yes. Like the kind of, if you were to poll Twitter realignment people, the expectation or the thought was that, yes, they would be making $100 million plus off that deal, like right out of the gates. Yeah. That, of course, at some point during the contract, they might get to 100 in a couple years.
Yeah, but it's not like immediately. And that was almost like taken as just fact as well. And there were a couple of other super chats that said it's going to be $115 million. No, it's not. That doesn't mean it's not a hell of a lot more money. And a lot of teams outside of the SEC or even in the SEC would like to have the kind of money that they're going to get in the Big Ten. And I think it's great. Get as much as you can now on the clock, the Pac-12 and the Big 12. And that's part of the story that we started off with today. Do you think that the ESPN discussions with the Big 12 will end up, what would you predict would end up, whether or not it will affect Texas and Oklahoma leaving a year or two earlier? A year or two would be like next year. That's not going to happen. I just can't see them turning it around that quickly. Do you feel like they're going to end up leaving at least a year prior to when they're supposed to? And that ESPN will figure that out with the Big 10 or the Big 12?
I mean, we've always said that there just feels like there would be a way to get them out faster, but I don't think it. Yeah, I still think next year is going to be the big 14-team league, and then maybe in 2024, by that time they're out.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can say. Like, I mean, we can all predict, of course. Predictions are going to be commonplace throughout the season here, but I don't know. I mean, just assuming. I think it certainly raises the chances of it happening, but I think that they're going to be around for this year and next year, and then after that, all bets are off. So, if they get out early, it'd be by a year. So I don't know how much of a difference that truly makes in the long run. So, I've been open the entire time to the idea of them getting out early, a year early, and that would be following next season. So that hasn't changed on my end. I don't think it's certainly moved up to being after this season. But then again, it's Texas and Oklahoma, and they'll stab you in the back as soon as they shake your hand. So, all bets are off in that regard. But hopefully Brett Yormark and company are a little bit wiser about their security and, kind of how things are set up and not, caught with their pants down, which, would be hard to do anyways because of all the logistics involved. So, I think they're around for a couple more years, and then they'll bolt a year early potentially, and everybody will go about their merry business.
Justin, one question on the chat room. Would it be close to $100 million per team if the playoff does expand, as was discussed earlier today, and they offer more money in those 2 years? Yeah, sure.
I think so.
It could actually raise everybody's
but see,
income.
that's where the argument
But
was.
The story was $100 million for the TV deal.
Yes, and then it was like, no, that was for this, and it's like, no, it wasn't talking. No, it was in general. It was like they're going to be making $100 million from the TV deals. But yes, to your question, the playoff making more money is going to make more money for everybody. But the whole $100 million thing, I think, was supposed to. Depending, I guess, who you want to point to, who would have thrown that out there. Some might have included that total of basketball money and playoff money and all that, and that's where their figure came from. And some people, I think, were just running with $100 million just for the TV deal. So it depends on who you ask. But yeah, I mean, more money is more money, and it's just a matter of what side of the TV deal are you talking about? Just the football part of it, or all of that comes with that. As far as the figures go. But yeah, that's more money is good for everybody involved.
And then Curtis Llewellyn, isn't it a back-loaded contract? They may make $115 at the end of per year, especially if they get an ESPN. No, you're right. No, we've said that, but it was initially it was going to be $100 million immediately, and it's again, I don't know if it's apples and oranges or what, but it was going to be $100 million a year. It's a lot of blanket money.
But it
was guaranteed $100 million per school.
Well, I don't know if it was guaranteed. It was just people talking. And again, It was depending on who you ask. Some people said that, and it was including certain other factors. Some people said it, and it wasn't. It was just, look at all this money. And ultimately, I don't care. I don't care. And I think, debating on the difference between $115 million in 2 years versus $100 million now, and that $100 million and how it came about, versus what, it comes about in 2 years. I mean, I care to an extent, but ultimately, getting down in the dirt over 115 versus 100, and whether it takes place now or 2 years from now, and how that takes place, I don't think is really that big of a deal.
No, it's not, because a lot is a lot. But of course, there's been a lot of swaying and roller coaster of what it all means. There's going to be the Super 2. That seems to be almost a distant thought. That doesn't mean that still may not pop up. That's still a lot of money that the Big Ten will be distributing to their teams even before USC and UCLA show up as now, or the SEC as well. When we come back, my conversation with Texas Tech head football coach Joey McGuire, as he will have his first game as head coach in Lubbock against Murray State. That's next on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels with a great selection of new cars, trucks. Go by the dealership whenever you can. Competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? During the Labor Day sales event at Alan Samuels, purchase a new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star and receive values up to $7,000, or choose 2.9% financing for 72 months and get $2,500 bonus cash with no payments for 90 days. Also, the 2022 Dodge Charger, Dodge Challenger, receives 0% for 72 months, no payments for 90 days. If you're a first responder, you get an extra $500 in bonus cash as well. Alan Samuels, Ted Teague, the general manager. AJ was the guy that helped me out with the car that I bought, that I've loved ever since, and helped me get through the process, and has great knowledge. But there are other, what they call client people, that will have client managers for you if you're looking to test drive or buy a car, SUV, or truck. And of course, they have the great Ram trucks. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
Looks to continue the dynasty, and the Bears do it again. Yet another sack. That is their 9th of the night.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality.
Joey McGuire, head football coach at Texas Tech. The Red Raiders open up against Murray State. It has been, 5 years, 16, since the last time you were a head coach in the sideline? Has that even, entered into this week?
Oh, man, it's funny you say that because earlier in the week at the Monday press conference, so I guess yesterday, you know how days run together, Don asked me about that. He said, have you been thinking about being back on the sideline as head coach? And, man, I think I've thought about it, since I've gotten the job, from the pregame speech to, running out of the tunnel. I just get, chill bumps just thinking about it. And, man, I can't wait. I mean, our guys have worked their tails off, and they're ready. They're ready like everybody else, I think, in the country that's playing week one for, and this will be the first time they're ready to hit somebody else.
Do you know who you have as a team until you play a game, or maybe until you're tested?
Oh, you think you do. I've got some veteran coaches that, I'm always what do you think, where we're at, just picking, Kenny Perry's a guy that, he's my best friend, and he's brutally honest with everything. I'm always asking him, and he feels like we're in a good spot. I feel like we're in a good spot, but I think until somebody hits you in the mouth, until you see how you're going to respond to true adversity in game time situations, you think but at the end of the day, you really don't know what you have.
Is there a difference, you think, in coaching at the high school and college level?
Well, so this is what I always tell everybody. You're coaching 3 more minutes a quarter.
Yeah.
You're usually going to carry. You're going to usually carry more offense and defense when it comes to third down, and you're usually going to carry more offense and defense whenever it comes to red zone. But as far as, the X's and O's and at the end of the day, playing at a high level and not beating yourself, I don't think there's a lot of difference. I really don't, and I think that there's so many good coaches that I've coached against that have gotten me ready for this moment. I think that we'll be able to adjust and play really well, to the weeks to come.
Is there a thought in your mind? This has been, it's hard to imagine. It's not been a year since you took the job, but it seems like it's just been like a blur just because of, I know you and what it was like. Is there a part of you that just, my God, we just want to look like a good football team, win the game, obviously, but just look like a good team?
Man, I think you've been sitting in my meetings. It's so funny. Monday, our staff meeting, I'm talking to him, and I told him, I said, I still remember 2003, talking to my coaches about, guys, we just got to make it look like football. At the end of the day, the product we put on the field, it's just got to, let's just make sure it looks right. And, I was laughing because I said, I remember this conversation that I'm having. And I said, I'm not going to totally have the exact same conversation with y'all, but make sure we're covering all our bases. Make sure we've gone through every situation. I said, I know we have, but rethink, go back through from the time we got here until now. Is there anything we're missing, and what do we need to cover? Because you and I both know, I remember in 2020 with Coach Aranda. I mean, he's been a long-time coordinator and one of the best play callers on the defensive side of the ball in the country for years after years after years. And I still remember, there was times that we'd be in a game and you're like, golly, man, we don't want to do this. And not his decision, but we got to make sure that we look like a football team, and there was some situations like that year that you're like, dang, did we really do what we were supposed to do? Not only for the team, but just for him, because, at the end of the day, all eyes are on you, and you either have a team that you prepared to go play, or you have a team that you could have prepared to go play, but something happens and you don't look like you have. And so, yes, I talk about that. We talked about that this week also.
Spike Dykes had a great run there. Coach Cawthorn had a great run there. Mike Leach had a great run there as well. Have you, and do you, I know you've had Tech in your blood. You've talked about that from the beginning, but have you studied the history of Texas Tech football?
Yeah, I have, and so one thing that has helped me also is, so one of my really good friends, his name is Judd Hardage. And Judd was the golf coach when I first got to Cedar Hill. We were both assistants together, and he is a diehard Red Raider. I mean, as diehard a Red Raider as there is, I believe. And we would go to lunch every day, and we would talk about Texas Tech and whatever was happening in Texas Tech. And, of course, we talked about college football, and, we talked about Baylor a lot because his dad's a Baylor grad, and so – it was one of those deals that I think we spent so much time talking about at lunch that I was getting a history lesson every single day. And then being a Texas high school coach, and following, you want Texas universities to do well, because the majority of their rosters are Texas high school kids. And so you want them to do well, nationally. And so I would always follow, what was going on at Texas Tech. And then, with Judd in my ear almost every day whenever it came to Tech, I think, I had a history lesson of what was going on, what happened, and what to do and what not to do.
Bull team last year, I know there was the coaching change, and then you sat there and had to bite the bullet for about, a month or so, it seemed like, which I know you're like, I'm sure that wasn't easy. So this is a team, and we brought this up with you during Big 12 Media Days, that had playmakers, had talent, did win games. Do they have an edge to them to take it to the next level? Do they have that, we were okay, there's a reason there was a coaching change, let's go. It's go time.
Well, I think that bowl victory helped them a ton. From the standpoint of a lot of reasons, just as a whole, as a university, of who we were playing, and then them, getting to a bowl and getting those extra practices. And then we've come in and I'm one of those guys, man. I believe in breathing life and breathing confidence in your players, and so we've tried to do that with everything that we've done. I think we have a confident team. Again, we'll see what that team looks like whenever we get hit in the mouth, or when we get to hit somebody in the mouth. But, I do think that they are hungry, and then I do think not that we deserve anything more, but hey, we did win a bowl against the SEC team, and we're not getting a whole lot of credit for anything. And so that's awesome. I love it. I was a part of that team last year that was basically the same thing that happened in Waco, and you saw what happened there. And so, I think that also gives us some faith and some encouragement that it really doesn't matter where anybody picks you. It's, where you end up at the end of the year.
You picked a quarterback to start in Tyler Shuck against Murray State, but you also have a room that's very loaded, very deep. Anybody could play at any time. How have they handled the decision?
Man, they've been awesome. Tyler really won the job, and it was a deal that I think the team saw it. It was a tough decision because, two of the three are my captains. Donovan Smith is one of my captains, and, man, all three of them competed their tails off. And so it wasn't one of those deals where you could point and say, well, the team's not going to play hard for this guy. The team's going to play hard for whoever's in there, and because they're well-liked. They work extremely hard. There's not anybody that you're going, well, the team's not going to freaking get behind him because he's not working hard enough. But the guys did such a great job. I mean, you're talking about two of the three that are coaches' kids. Donovan Smith is a coach's kid, and Baron Morton's a coach's kid. And so I think them having that background and understanding the game from the standpoint of, winning that job, I think it gave them they could understand where I was coming from. The other thing, too, is both of them were a play away last year. It's not like somebody came in and played the whole year. Tyler got hurt last year, and they had to play. And so when you're saying you've got to be ready to go, you're one snap away, they understand that. They understand that they have to be ready because they had to be ready last year whenever it came to that.
Is there anything that you've met as the head coach that you weren't expecting or surprised you?
Man, I'll tell you what. I said this, and I really stand behind it. I really thought I knew what this fan base was about. I really had no idea. I mean, I know, and where I came from, I felt this love for a university, and I guess it maybe is the size, but I also believe where we're at in West Texas, that there's this extreme ownership in this region, and I've never seen anything like it whenever it comes to just getting behind your team. And I mean, I think the cactus emoji and all that stuff that happened from another Big 12 opponent, it shows you that, man, these people out here, they are all about Texas Tech, and they are going to get behind their teams. And so I thought I really knew their passion, but, man, they fire me up. And I've told them, everywhere I've gone, I don't think they understand how big of an impact they're having on this team and getting behind us the way they are.
Joey, you're about to take the field as the head coach. You mentioned the pregame speech, the tunnel, Jones AT&T Stadium, the fan base. I know how full throttle, stick your head in the tank of gasoline and light it with a match, as I say, whenever we're about to have just a show that we can't, just start to finish. Can you sleep the night before?
I probably won't, man. I probably won't. And what's crazy is we got a 7 p.m. kickoff, so it's going to be a long day, But I learned this from Matt Rule, and I really believe it. He used to always say the hay's never in the barn. That you coach all the way through the game, everything you're doing, you're always trying to adjust to be better. And so I think having that mindset and learning that from him is going to help me. I don't think I'll sleep any, but it's going to help me, really stay focused on getting that team ready all the way through the game.
Have you spoken to him? I know he's getting his team ready for the regular season. Have you talked much at all with him?
We have not talked as much as we normally do. We text a lot because Garrett and Coach and I have a group text that is almost daily. But he's been really busy trying to get that team. I've been busy trying to get my team ready. Whenever I've had questions, I've reached out to him. But we haven't got to talk last couple of days. We usually are talking almost every day, but we do text every day, and it's usually Garrett firing something off. He thinks he knows everything. So he's going to get to come to the game since they're not playing this weekend. So I'm sure he's going to have a notebook ready for me after the game of what I did wrong. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I saw him at Big 12 Media Days. The family was great. Last question for you. Do you ever think you have to tone it down as the head coach in college compared to what you were like at Cedar Hill or as an assistant at Baylor?
I don't necessarily, the passion is going to be there. The one thing that, as I was thinking, it's because I've thought about this a lot. I've got to make sure that I'm reacting the way, one, true to myself, reacting, but I also got to make sure that I'm staying composed for my staff. you didn't have to do that as much as an assistant as you have to do it as a head coach. But the one thing that Jeff Traylor told me, and, Jeff and I talk a lot also. I mean, we're not texting every day. We're talking at least once or twice a week. He said, Joey, no matter what, he said, you have to be true to yourself because the players are going to know it and they're going to feed off of it. And you try to be different, then, you're just going to end up cheating yourself and cheating them. He said, so just be true to yourself. And so, I definitely got to do that. But I've also got to make sure I'm managing that sideline and everybody else and keeping us, composed and that mentality of what's next. No matter if it's good or bad, we got to get to the next play.
We appreciate you so much, man. Good luck.
Thank you, man. I appreciate y'all. Really appreciate you having me.
Joey McGuire, head football coach at Texas Tech on 360.
That's Joey McGuire. Next week, Kalani Sitake, Brigham Young head coach. As today or this week, we've heard from head coaches at UTSA, Jeff Traylor, Joey McGuire at Texas Tech, Dave Aranda, obviously, to start the week as well, and Greg Gattuso, the head coach at Albany. They play Saturday against Baylor. When we come back, we'll have John Machota on the Cowboys in the NFL. There have been some new players added to various rosters, practice squads, etc. We'll try to update that as well in Paul's Top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio. Ideal MRI can save you money and also find out what hurts you. Something that's going on with your muscle, something that's going on with your ligament, something that hurts you in the shoulder, your knee, could be something that's bothering you in your abdomen. Wherever it is, they'll find it because they have a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. And the great news is they're going to save you a lot of money. We've told you stories about a couple of ladies this summer who saved over $1,000. One saved nearly $1,600. Their MRIs are $497 or less every single time. It never goes higher than that. They will help you save money. So if your doctor suggests an MRI, you suggest, and they'll know about Ideal MRI in the Central Texas Marketplace in Waco. Thanks to Dr. Rob Maxey and the great staff. I've been inside their machine 2 or 3 different times, got results back, and even a phone call every time, almost within a couple of 2 or 3 hours that evening. IdealMRI.com.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Cowboys obviously have an issue at tackle. They feel like they might have the solution with Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. They don't know. And then now, John Machota, theathletic.com story up about, maybe Jason Peters, former Oklahoma star who's been with Philadelphia forever, might be a possible option as well. What did he play for?
He didn't play at Oklahoma.
No. Jason Peters. Where did Jason play?
Played at
Arkansas.
Queen City High School.
I know he played at high school. Arkansas, I guess it was. John, what's the deal? Anything really going on with Jason Peters?
Yeah, so it sounds like he's going to come in tomorrow, and they're going to, meet with him, probably see what kind of shape he's in, and is he somebody that can help them right away? And I would think so. I mean, he's 40 years old, but also was 39 last year, and he started 15 games for the Bears. And so, if you think you're getting prime Jason Peters or you're getting Tyron Smith, you're probably not. But this isn't just a Tyler Smith being a rookie. Let's try and maybe ease him into this thing. It's also the fact that this team doesn't really have anybody at swing tackle that you feel confident about either. So it's like they need another offensive tackle no matter what. And I don't think Jason Peters is a bad fit for that. And when I say that, I mean, this is a guy that's a veteran, obviously being 40 years old. He's played ball at a high level, 9-time Pro Bowler. And I was going through some interviews, some quotes from an interview he had last month. And this is basically what he was looking to do, it sounds like, was that, hey, these older guys like this, they're really not trying to do the grind of training camp. They know what's needed from them. They're trying to get out there with the team. When they start trimming down rosters, hey, week 1, let me try and get with the team. It sounds like that this is his last go, and he wanted to give a team that has a chance to be a contender, and then also a team that, maybe has some guys that they want him to, kind of be a mentor to and bring him along. That certainly sounds like something you'd want to do with Tyler Smith. So to me, I think this is a no-brainer, and I don't think it'll cost you very much. I think he signed last year with the Bears on a 1-year deal that was, I think it was under $2 million. So it's not like it's going to cost them a lot either. Like I said, I just think this makes too much sense. As long as he's healthy and in shape, I think you got to do this.
John, they've made 20 draft picks the last 2 years. All 20 of them are on the roster. Now, while that might be good news, it kind of also leads into the offseason of that they were doing. Does this team trust itself a little bit too much?
Probably, yeah. You could probably say that. I mean, I think they draft well. I mean, overall, when you look at all 32 teams, I mean, I don't know that I would make the argument that they're the NFL's best drafting team, but I think they're in the upper echelon. They're in that upper tier, and they certainly have been able to find some, outstanding star players, whether you talk about Micah Parsons or Trayvon Diggs or, Dak Prescott, especially where they were able to get those guys at. I mean, they've definitely hit on their fair share of high round picks. But I maintain that that's great. I love the draft and develop. I think that that's a great way to go. But you still have to add a player here or there kind of a missing piece. I feel like if you're going to really be one of those teams that takes it to the Super Bowl level, I think that you're going to have to add some key piece outside the building. And they did that in 2018 when they knew that they needed another receiver, particularly a number one receiver. They went and got Amari Cooper. And so I maintain that if they're real serious about this season, we'll know as the season goes on, because if Michael Gallup comes back and he's not where he's supposed to be and things like that, and they don't go out and get another receiver and none of these rookies kind of step up, they're just kind of, hey, he's okay. Simi Foko did okay. Dennis Houston did okay, but no one's really elevating their game. They're not doing anything to improve the roster. Well, the actions speak louder than their words, and the actions are that they're not really thinking that they're a contender. But I think you go out and sign Jason Peters, maybe try and add a receiver somewhere through a trade or something to add another veteran in there. I think that this roster, it fills its holes, but that still remains to be seen.
Yeah, and of course, the practice squad with the quarterbacks in Rush and also Will Grier. But Cooper Rush is number 2. He'll be all ready to go on game day if needed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They just did this with putting them both on the practice, letting them go because Cooper Rush is a vested veteran, so he was going to be back no matter what. Grier had to clear waivers, and so no one tried to claim him, and so that's why they were able to get him back. But Cooper Rush will be the backup. That was the plan. You could tell when they weren't playing him very much in the preseason. I felt like that was a good example of them just showing this is probably our guy unless Will Grier just blows us away. And they liked a lot of the stuff that Will Grier showed them in training camp and in the preseason, but I don't think there was enough there to, overtake a Cooper Rush who showed you last year, hey, if you need me in a pinch, I can go in and win a game. And the thing between the two of them with me, this is what you battle with is, all right, so Will Grier is probably got a chance to make more plays. He's more mobile. Obviously, for fans, it's going to be a little bit more of an exciting player. But I also think that there's a greater chance of him turning the ball over and making a big play the other way, whereas Cooper Rush is just kind of solid and steady. He's probably not going to make the big mistake, and he's probably not going to make a ton of big plays, but he showed you in that Minnesota game, he can make enough big plays to win you games. And when you have the defense they have, I think they probably would prefer the guy that's not going to turn the ball over, just kind of be the game manager if need be, and maybe win a game or two with the defense if need be. But let's be honest, if they have to turn to Cooper Rush for an extended period of time, I don't think that they plan on having a really successful season.
John, the Malik Turner was released from the 49ers. They seem to like a lot of their young guys at wide receiver, but he was someone who played well for them in spots last year and was a really good special teamer. Could you see Malik Turner making his way back into Dallas?
I guess he could. I don't know that he would be that much of an upgrade of what they have right now. To be honest with you, and this obviously fits with your guys' show, the one that intrigues me most, and I'm sure you've talked about, is Denzel Mims. He clearly wants out of New York. A guy that, I don't know, Texas guy, went to Baylor. I just feel like Mims would be worth going after. Now, obviously, if the Jets are asking for a second or third round pick, you're not going to do that. But if you can give away some late round pick and get Denzel Mims, I would be intrigued by that. I'm not saying he's going to be their, an outstanding number 2 receiver or something like that. But that's a player that if they did a move like that, like you've seen today with the Eagles trading Jalen Reagor to Minnesota, of course there's going to be Eagles fans saying good, get rid of him. He was terrible. Yeah, well, you never know what a change of scenery could do for a guy, And so some of these younger receivers that, even though it didn't work with this team, who's to say it doesn't work for the other? And if you don't have to give up too much, that's the type of move that I think intrigues me, because that gives you a guy that could potentially be maybe your 2 or 3 on this team behind CeeDee Lamb.
John, how many rookies made the team?
So there are 17 if you count the guys that are on practice squad. And so, Mike McCarthy told us today that he made it a point to talk to the team about his Packers team that won the Super Bowl back in 2010. And they needed 10 rookies on that team to help them win the Super Bowl. And that included, playing in meaningful moments. So he's like, we got 17 rookies in this room right now. This isn't just say, hey, you're a rookie, just kind of, you're along for the ride and just try and gain as much knowledge as you can. It was, a lot of you are going to have to contribute and contribute in big games. And so, that's his whole thing. He keeps talking about how, in Green Bay, it was draft and develop, which it was. And that's the way this is here. But I maintain also on his 4 best teams there, the ones that went to the conference championship game, he also had a Charles Woodson. He had a Julius Peppers, some key guys that they had to get outside the building that helped put those teams over the top. So draft and develop's great. And there is a chance that, maybe you get lucky and you hit it right and you can win with just draft and develop. I just still think you need that a key missing piece from outside the building that kind of puts you over the top.
Yeah, John, as we get closer to the season, how scared should we be for Dak Prescott's health?
I mean, here's the thing. I think that a lot of people, when they think of, oh man, they're going to throw Tyler Smith out there at left tackle, I think a lot of people are fearful of that day that I think a lot of people remember where they were at when the Cowboys decided to let Chaz Green just kind of go out on an island in Atlanta and just kind of do his thing. And it was a disaster. And they should have given him a lot more help. And I believe that's what will happen with this current team, is that they're not going to leave Tyler Smith like that. They're going to have to give him help. And that's going to be bringing an extra tight end, a lot more 2 tight end sets, having Zeke in to help pass protect, things like that. I don't think that you really need to worry about Dak's health because of where they're at an offensive tackle. You have to worry about the productivity of the offense, because when you bring in that extra tight end, when you're keeping Zeke in the block, or they could have packages where they have an extra offensive tackle out there. It's taking playmakers off the field. And so you're going to have an offense that could be pretty boring and could not be scoring very many points. And you might have to win several games with your defense. But in terms of keeping Dak upright and healthy, he's their $40 million quarterback. They'll have extra guys in the pocket to block, to protect him and prevent some of the things like that happening. It might be a boring offense as a result.
John, thank you. Enjoy Florida State, LSU. Enjoy New Orleans. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely, guys. Will do.
John Machota, theathletic.com, covering the Cowboys and giving us some knowledge on their roster. 17 rookies, including the practice squad. That's a big chunk of number of rookies to start the year. And, of course, the roster will fluctuate constantly. Coming up, Paul's top 5 to wrap it up. Sikkim, 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels, our great selection of new cars and trucks come with amazing deals and competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? During the Labor Day sales event at Allen Samuels, purchase a new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star and receive values up to $7,000, or choose 2.9% for 72 months and get $2,500 bonus cash and no payments for 90 days. Shop with us today. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It's summertime. There's picnics, reunions, cookouts, and so much to do. And Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco is your home for the butcher shop that can help you with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. They are spectacular at being able to deliver you whatever cut of steak you want. Bone-in ribeye, however thick you want it, that's great. They'll do it. Sirloin, T-bone, porterhouse, bacon-wrapped filet. And, of course, as I mentioned, they have pork, poultry, and seafood. Their Norwegian salmon is spectacular. Also, all of the sauces and seasonings you'll ever need, all the ingredients you'll ever need to make sure you have that perfect, flawless taste. So it's delicious whenever you take something off the grill. And a full-fledged bakery as well, with fresh baked bread and kolaches every single day. Up and down the aisle of Waco Custom Marketplace, you also have what you need, from knickknacks to snacks to more, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, Waco Custom Marketplace.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 things to look for in a Big 12 TV deal. Since the news broke today that the Big 12 is engaging in early negotiations with their television partners on the new deal, or starting those. Just some things to look for. Number 5, overall payout. What's that number going to be at the end? How close can it be to those two big dogs? Because it's not going to be that. But can the gap be bridged at least a little bit so it doesn't appear to be just this Grand Canyon of difference?
Craig, if they gave a number, what number, if they gave, that would be the first year per team, including the incoming 4, you would go, that's damn good.
I don't know. What do they get right now?
Per year, what was it,
42.
42.6 million?
If they got like 50, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's cool. It's half of what probably the rest are getting. And to be clear, like my conversation a few minutes ago when I was talking about like those Big Ten reports, and again, it was just depending on what Twitter feed you were looking at, like, the total that the Big Ten was set to make. And it's not all that important. I do care because I care about what the Big 12 is going to ultimately make. But, like, I just don't care about getting into the weeds over, like, semantics over this 100 million versus that 100 million. Like, it's just give me the total, So, yeah, just total-wise, because for this example, it'd be like, well, are we talking about simply the TV deal or are we talking about the Final Four involved? And that's what I was talking about. Just in general, yeah, like I guess a TV deal, if they're making 42, then 50, yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
If they got to that.
Oh, I know it's unlikely.
No, but,
given that's almost $10 million a team for 14 teams,
and that's including
12.
Fox, ESPN, and everything else. Okay.
All right. Number 4, third partner. I don't think it'd be CBS, and I mentioned NBC before, just because, if you want to do a doubleheader every week for programming consistency, the Big 12 is your best option, just given the fact that their time zones are a little easier to manage, and so. Could the Big 12 be that partner for a doubleheader every week with the Big 12 and the Big 10 on NBC, or Notre Dame and somebody every week? Yeah.
Or the Pac-12, could they be that?
They could. I mean, I would just think even that 3:30 window. I mean, it's still noon, but I mean, like, we'll see. I think that, and especially, I would try to mirror as much as I could and get my product across as much stuff as I could. So,
well, I'll be curious to see what the streaming part is outside of ESPN Plus. Pretty much everybody's, it feels like, has that at some point or another, part of a bundle or whatever. So, like, they'll get some viewers there. But, outside of that, yeah, who is their peacock, so to say?
Yeah.
And then I saw with Amazon.
We'll get that one in a second, by the way. But yeah.
Well, I don't know if y'all saw that article on Amazon about, the fact that they put so much in this new Lord of the Rings show that it's kind of their make or break on as far as original programming goes. And I know that doesn't necessarily have to do with live sports, but I am curious kind of like their whole model and what they've got invested in right now of what their appetite is for college sports in particular. But, I'm sure there's others out there that I'm not thinking of.
Yeah. Number 3, is there a conference network? Is that something that they can do that is better? I mean, like, all options have to be on the table. The Big 12 has always kind of poo-pooed this idea, but now that Texas and Oklahoma are gone, and especially Texas, do you bring this back up again? Is it worth it? Is it working for the ones that aren't the Pac-12? It's working for the Big 10. It's working for the SEC. Then you can make the argument that it's working for the ACC.
I think the ACC's network is pretty strong.
I think it's. I mean, I watched it last week. Yeah. So if it's working for those 3, why not at least consider it as part of your deal?
I think this is where some of the media market stuff comes into play.
Yeah.
It's just like, what markets are you getting for a Big 12 network and how much demand is there for that and whatnot. But yeah, I mean,
because you're taking out. I mean, it's not even you're taking out because you could still have Austin and Oklahoma City, which are the big ones that you would lose against Texas and Oklahoma, but you'll still have that because of the other teams that are left. But I think maybe to your point, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is Ames really getting the cable providers excited?
You know what, though? I would think that something like this would go over very well. Now, would it be hundreds and no, but I would think that in places like Ames, Lubbock, Manhattan.
Right, but like how much does that give you ultimately? Like those markets all added up.
Could you reach more people with that than you have with ESPN Plus? Could it be easier, more accessible, where you could make more? I don't know. I don't know the options with it.
All I know is I'm not going out of my way to go purchase the Big 12 network until I see something that's pretty good. And like, are you going to be able to just throw it on everybody's cable bill like the Longhorn Network did, or like the Big 10 network in some places? Like, well, that would be my question, because that's where the size comes into play and the demand for it is. There was, a way to pitch why the Longhorn Network was placed on everybody's cable, whether they liked it or not, or why the Big Ten Network has the homes that they do. But yeah, how many homes, how much demand, how would it be presented? That would be my question, because the Big 12 and the network thing has not really ever jived, quite frankly.
Yeah, number two.
It was dead idea walking before it even started.
Well, and that's because one of the teams didn't want to be a part of it, the one that you needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let's not forget Oklahoma has theirs now.
Yeah, but
it's not. It wasn't like the one that created the fire.
No, but I do have a feeling that if the Longhorns had said let's make a Big 12 network, we wouldn't be sitting here now.
No,
either.
absolutely not. There'd be a Big 12 network. Yep.
There'd be a Big 12 network, and the Longhorns and Sooners would be happy in this conference, and nothing would have changed. Number two. Streaming component. Who's out there, like you said, Craig? Is there something that's different than ESPN Plus? Does ESPN Plus do something maybe special for them? Part of the thing about Peacock is that Notre Dame and the Big Ten will stand out on that, as where I do think a little bit with the ESPN Plus and the Big 12, things kind of get lost in the wash because it's just so much.
I mean, it's like right next to the link for Baylor, Texas Tech is right next to Hofstra Wofford. It's like it's kind of a hard site to navigate sometimes. And like I was trying to find Dave Aranda's press conference 2 days ago, and I couldn't locate it because it was the wrong ESPN Plus specific link. And it was just kind of confusing. So yeah, I mean, outside of ESPN Plus, I mean, that's obviously going to be some of their bread and butter, the way it's set up. And it will continue to be most likely. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, I forget what outlet it was that was reporting on that new Lord of the Rings show, but just the cost and all of that is something that Amazon's banking heavily on for success in their original programming department. They've obviously dabbled with sports, but, with the Big 12 still feeling like, as much as it's spreading nationally, it's still very regional in feel. And I know that's the appeal of college sports, but, like, you could pitch me on the Amazon potentially having interest in West Coast Pac schools if there was, especially still some LA school representation. I have a harder time seeing the big brains at Amazon going like, we really want this
and
middle part of the country, Yeah.
Where are they? And the Amazon execs, the people who are making that decision, where did they go to school? Like, what are they excited about?
Yeah.
A lot of them went to Stanford, right?
Yeah.
A lot, like, they're in Silicon Valley. Like, that's what they're kind of, like, lean. I'll use the example, Smokey, you remember ESPN when they first started, like, there was a crap load of hockey on, and even they even kind of, when that first wave of people were still in charge, they had after hockey kind of waned in popularity, it was still on a lot because
I don't remember hockey as much as I do Australian rules football.
But even like until that big lockout, there was still a big push at ESPN to maintain all this hockey content when it had at that time kind of dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was because the people that were in charge of ESPN are hockey fans.
Most of ESPN's programming was sports centers, a lot of them throughout the day, and sometimes you almost got them mixed up. But,
Yeah. And number one, room for expansion. Like, do they have escalators in there for whatever may happen? Is that similar to the Big Ten contract? I think it'd be smart to do so.
Yeah.
So I would think, I'm sure the Pac-12 contract will probably have that in there as well, because one would think they would have to, if the Big Ten, especially if the Big Ten does coming for a couple of their schools, then they're going to have to. And the Big 12, has never been kind of shy, even going back to last year, about saying that 12 isn't the final number. It just depends on what is available and when.
Yeah, but there's not going to be any specific contract escalator for any of those schools listed right there, or anybody potentially coming. That's a Notre Dame only kind of a thing. That's what, which was it, Bob or Pat that pointed out. That was a very much a specific Notre Dame escalator. But, I mean, they appear to have room. They've welcomed in the idea. They've certainly done the complete opposite of trying to stamp out speculation about expansion, going back to just Mac Rhodes' comments yesterday and then everything unfolding today, basically. He predicted it. We just didn't know what he was predicting until we saw the news today of the Big 12, being calculated and aggressive as far as releasing that information, or whoever released that information about their TV negotiations starting early. But, yeah, I think there's room. I'm just very curious it's very easy for us to, say, oh, the 4 Pac-12 schools, those make sense. But is there somebody in that room going, well, I like 3 of those, but I don't know. I feel like San Diego State has higher upside than Colorado. Or is there some school that, Boise, or is there like some thought about the future and how that might change? Or is it just simply the 4 that seem like they would be the easiest bets and the best bets to move? I don't know, but I certainly do feel like, yes, there is room for expansion. It's just a matter of a little bit of what happens around them, I think, to kick that in. And one of those things, as part of the news today, that will have a major factor is that college football playoff. And if they do decide to expand it earlier, which there's plenty of reasons why, there's plenty of reasons why it won't. Greg Sankey's a big reason why it might not. But if it does, then that certainly resets the deck chairs in a totally different way and will have a big determining factor in the need to or the want to expand.
Bob Thompson's last tweet. ESPN owns the college football playoff rights through 2025-26. If college football presidents approve the 12-team playoff early, ESPN, I presume, will have to agree to open the deal. Maybe throw Fox a few games as part of the let's make a deal scenario. Think big, lots of moving pieces, lots of ways to make a deal. That's from Bob Thompson, who joined us earlier today. For Jacob Wilson, Levi Caraway, Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, and also Garrett Ross, thanks to you, all of you who have been a part of the show today, watching, listening, chatting, texting. Thank you, our sponsors, Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.